604. Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, off and running. Brian here with you. John LaBeouf producing. Back home in the studio. Oh, man. What a great couple days. What an absolutely great couple days. Probably gained a little weight, but what a great couple days.
Just a little?
Just, yeah. I mean, a
Good
lot of
food
walking
out there?
Yeah, very. A lot of walking involved. So whatever I put on, I probably took right back off.
Yeah.
I'll find out tomorrow. We're starting off at 73 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. Mornings with Brian Haldane, off and running. Last day of the legislative session, y'all. Last day of the session. We'll talk about that a good bit. Actually, we'll cover that in a number of different segments, but we got a whole rundown. We'll get to it in just a minute. Let's start off, though, with top stories and trending.
Number 5.
10 Chinese women were detained in an ICE raid of Baton Rouge massage parlors yesterday. The federal agency conducted a worksite enforcement operation at 9 different businesses across the capital area. ICE said the women are being interviewed to determine removability. The massage parlors were in Baton Rouge, St. George, and Zachary.
Number 4.
Grabbing this one from the Daily Report, about a year after opening, more than 2,000 people are now working in Amazon's Cortana Fulfillment Center, double the 1,000 jobs pledged when the center was first announced. This according to Jessica Bro, a senior economic development manager at Amazon, who spoke about the e-commerce giant's economic impact in Baton Rouge at the Rotary Club yesterday.
Number 3.
Also yesterday, the EBR Metro Council passed a motion allowing the city parish to settle a lawsuit involving demonstrators arrested in protests following the death of Alton Sterling by Baton Rouge police. That settlement is for $625,000. While we're checking in on the Metro Council, their meeting last night, they also determined who would be the advisor for the Raising Cane's River Center redevelopment project. And if I get my screen to refresh, which it appears I cannot, so why don't I move to my printed version? Metro Council has approved Hunden Partners, a leading global advisor for destination real estate development projects, to serve as the city parish's advisor on the Baton Rouge Convention Center expansion and headquarters hotel development project.
Number 2.
Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development Secretary John Donahue is moving to a different role, leaving the position vacant. Sources tell our news partners over at WBRZ. Donahue was first appointed as DOTD Secretary in January of 2024. Sources say he's moving to Executive Council, opening up the search for the next DOTD Secretary.
Number 1.
A pursuit in West Baton Rouge Parish resulted in a deputy firing a shot at a vehicle before the pursuit crossed over into East Baton Rouge Parish. Officials said just before 8 p.m., they attempted a traffic stop on I-10 eastbound. Driver refused to comply, leading to the pursuit. Deputies observed the suspect discarding a handgun from the vehicle, which law enforcement did later recover. At one point, the vehicle reached a dead end, turned around, drove towards the deputy, resulting in the deputy shooting at the approaching vehicle. The suspect re-entered I-10 eastbound, went into East Baton Rouge Parish, where deputies lost sight of the vehicle, and the pursuit was terminated. This is, of course, still under investigation. What's trending, John?
Well, are Donald Trump and Elon Musk on the road to making up? Well, yesterday the president said he understands Musk lashing out and said these things happen.
Do they?
I mean,
Do they?
just, you know.
You ever lash out at somebody on social media and say that they were on Epstein Island?
Right.
Exactly.
Maybe not to that extent, you know?
Maybe not to that extent. No, I understand. If sometimes tantrums happen.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
But making such claims, yes.
All right, so they might
for
make
Trump
up.
just to brush it off and just say, you know what? People say things. I get it.
Sure.
He was heartbroken.
Sure.
He was speaking from a place of hurt.
Someone accuses you of being a pedophile. Just let it roll.
Right. Yeah.
Let it roll. NBD.
Why not?
All right. What else?
Headlines over ICE raid protests and riots aside, President Trump is showing positive polling results when it comes to immigration.
Absolutely.
So
61% favorable on the immigration front.
Yep.
I mean, how about that for a number? How about a 20% gap?
Not bad at all.
That's
Surprising to some, but not bad at all.
well, it's a matter of it's a matter of believing what you see versus believing what you're told.
Yes.
And apparently more people are believing what they see when it comes to the riots, and then the actual arrests start coming out, and you start to find out, wow, they arrested some pretty allegedly violent criminals,
Yes,
as
they
opposed to hearing from Los Angeles' mayor or California's governor, and just, oh yeah, I'll take what I'm spoon-fed,
Right.
whatever.
Yeah. This morning, tragedy coming out of India. A plane headed for London with more than 240 people on board crashed.
So
India, so
I was listening to the Fox News rundown on the way in, and there's gonna be a lot of unanswered questions to start this off. Man, absolutely tragic.
yes.
200, I want to say it was 242 people on board. I'm sure as the morning wears on, ABC News at the top of the hour will have this updated as more and more information makes its way literally across the world. We're at 610 at Talk 107.3 FM, about to roll over to 611. Want to remind you about the folks over at Landmark Bank. LandmarkBankLA.com is the website, LandmarkBankLA.com. Tell you about LandmarkBankLA.com because we're talking about a number of different individual branches here, and you're not going to find them in downtown Baton Rouge. You're going to find them in the surrounding area. You're going to find them in Brewley. You're going to find them in Clinton. You're going to find them in Zachary. You're going to find them in Denham. In fact, if you want the full list of locations, hit up LandmarkBankLA.com, that little About Us tab. When it drops down there, you will see the locations and hours right underneath the Contact Us, right underneath the Board of Directors, under the Discover Landmark Bank tab. Also, while you're there, check in on the resources that they offer. I mean, there's nothing you can't get from Landmark Bank. But the reason they are who they are is because they've stayed true to their mission for more than 120 years. Landmark Bank founded in 1897 as a community bank, and they've always remained a community bank. Like I said, learn more about locations, learn more about services at LandmarkBankLA.com. Quick break, coming back, we got sports next. Not sure what? That's you? 6:15 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Let's give you that rundown real quick before we dive into sports. We got Haggai Davis in for a cup of tech gumbo coming up at 6:35. Then we'll dive into the legislative session at 7:15. Jason DeCuir from Advantage Consulting going to be on with us. We got Don Capola coming by for Crimestoppers at 7:35. Got a couple of different things to talk about with him. Daniel Erspamer from the Pelican Institute at 8:15. And we will wrap up the guest list with Lana Venable from Louisiana Lawsuit Abuse Watch at 8:35. So, whole lot from inside the legislative session. Yes, I did see that the governor vetoed Alan Sebaugh's bill about acting in good faith versus bad faith. Yes, that was an insurance/tort reform bill. Yes, the governor said he would sign any bill that crossed his desk, and, well, maybe he didn't mean all of them, but that did get the hammer. That got the veto. So, we'll talk about that with Lana at 8:35. Probably talk about it with Daniel as well. Right now, though, it is sports time. Saints minicamp continues. Saints safety, former LSU Tiger Tyrann Mathieu, heading into his 13th season in the NFL, 5th with the New Orleans Saints. He's been with the Saints for 5 years already. That is remarkable. Kellen Moore is the third head coach that he's had in New Orleans, and Honey Badger says he likes that Moore is bringing a bright offensive mind with him.
When he was in Dallas, it was one of the highest scoring offenses. And, obviously when he went to Philadelphia was kind of struggling offensively for a minute. And then he came, and then he went back to the Bulls. So I do think he has some type of impact on the team. And he played the quarterback position, so he knows ball. And I think that's a good perspective to have because it is an offensive league.
Last day of mini campus today. The battle continues for who will be the starting quarterback. Tyler Shuck talks about how he's handling this rookie mini camp.
Every single school that I was at, I've been into quarterback competition. And when you're a 21, 22-year-old rookie, you're like, every single throw, you're like, I'm trying to match it, or I had a bad throw. But I've already kind of been through that, and I know the best way to do it is just do your job. There's going to be a lot of times we're running quick game. You may take the check down. That's a great play from the coach's perspective.
Moving from the Saints over to LSU baseball before heading up to Omaha. And, yes, it was they landed in Omaha yesterday, had a practice at Creighton while they were up there. Or, no, they will have a practice at Creighton, I should say. If I have my timeline right. But before heading up to Omaha, head coach Jay Johnson was asked, with this being his fourth trip to Omaha, how does this team compare to the previous rosters that he's brought with him?
If I said it reminded me of one of those teams, it would remind me of more one of the two Arizona teams than the 23 team. Just in terms of how we won a little bit. I will say this one is unique where probably more than any of them, that's two starters, that the team feels like we're winning when they're on the mound. I would say that's maybe the carrying tool. I would say multiple options out of the bullpen is a common thread, between the teams that get there and including this one. And then offensively, I think this one, when it has played its best, is really as good as any of them, even though it's a little bit different.
So you got two Southeastern Conference teams that are up there, and LSU has to square off against the other Southeastern Conference team. A lot of folks believe that the two Southeastern Conference teams are I shouldn't say a lot of folks. How about this? The two betting favorites are squaring off in the first round here. Game one it's game 4 overall, but LSU's first game will be against Arkansas. That is an unbelievably tall ask. So having Arkansas in game 1, Johnson says, well, it had to happen sometime.
Oh, yeah, they're the most talented team in the country. There's no question about that. And that was addressed when we played them the first time. And this whole entire season, if we were going to get where we wanted to go, there was no question in my mind whether we would play them or not. That's what, I felt like this was inevitable, whether it was going to be game 1 or the finals. So let's do it in game 1.
And that game 1 will be Saturday at 6 on our sister station, Eagle 98.1. Pregame will begin at 5:30. Chris Blair, of course, will be on the call. Our own Hunt Palmer is up there in Omaha right now. I'm hoping we can catch up with him on the show tomorrow. Kind of get a little preview, a little breakdown, a little scene setter, if you will. All right, we're at 6:19 to Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. We got to take a quick break for the Fox Business Report. On the back end of the Fox Business Report, a couple of we'll dive into a couple of items from the legislative session, not the least of which setting the table for the final day. A lot more to come here. It is rolling up to 6:20, so let's go ahead and take that break. We will continue with Mornings with Brian Haldane next on Talk 107.3. Got you and Franz taken care of yesterday, so you got your key card now. I want cuts 13, 14, and 15 in this next segment, too. But the de Villiers cuts can be first. Pyong.
You were still in New Orleans yesterday, weren't you?
Mhm.
You didn't make Rotary.
No, I didn't.
That's good.
De Villiers, yeah.
I would love to get a tour inside that building.
Live out an Indiana Jones fantasy.
Dodging all the robots running around everywhere. I was talking with an accountant yesterday, or 2 days ago, and he was telling me, yeah, they've got 200 employees, but 5 employees, that their health insurance went up 47% because he's got 5 employees who have these very, very specialized medicines. One employee's medicines is $100,000 a month.
How?
I don't know. How a pharmaceutical could charge $100,000 a month for meds.
I'm sure there's a mathematical equation. It just hasn't been addressed. That person needs to speak up, though, and get, like... Interstate systems are looking good this morning to start off your Thursday morning drive. I-10 westbound coming in from Ascension Parish looks great. 10 eastbound coming in from West Baton Rouge Parish looks great. Not even seeing that much volume on 12 westbound coming in from Livingston Parish. So we are pretty good to go on that front. So that in mind, let's step off the interstates and look at our surface streets. Ooh. Dadgummit. I hate when this happens. Refreshing. Oh. It's because there are no accidents. I got nothing on my board here. We got a clean start to your morning. Let's do our level best to keep it that way. That's really good traffic from the Shopville Star Traffic Center. .623, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane. Rolling right along. Just got back from New Orleans yesterday. Was down there for the last 2 days for the Department of Education's Teacher Leader Summit. And thanks again to them. I don't know why I can't thank them right now. They're all there still. The summit rolls on through today. But it could not have been more well organized, more well run. And I really don't know how to verbalize the level of energy in that building, in the convention center. It was something really, really remarkable to see. It's one thing to talk about capitalizing on the successes in education. It's another thing to see these teachers diving in, saying, yes, here I am. I've got ideas. I've got suggestions. I'm here to learn, but I'm also here to contribute. It was awesome. So thanks again to them. Happy National Seersucker Day. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. Although they were wearing seersucker in the Capitol yesterday. And I don't know why. Actually, I do know why. In case it was the last day of the session, they didn't want to miss out on Seersucker Day. And when you talk about, well, Brian, Sinai dies 6 p.m. this evening. Yeah, I know. That's when it's technically the very, very end of Sinai Die. Well, that's the last chance that they can is 6 p.m. this evening. They can get out early if they want. About 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon, maybe about 2:30ish, I was watching the action on the House floor as they were smashing through concurrence on a lot of bills. And one of the things we talked about earlier in the week was, as soon as HB 1 and HB 2 are done, the want to be there is going to fizzle quickly. So in between, just procedural stuff at the podium and whatnot, Speaker de Villiers sounded off on what the game plan was looking like at about 2:30 yesterday. Were they going to finish up?
Okay, members, we have about 50-plus bills that are in conference. We need to try to get through at least half of those today. And then tomorrow morning, we're going to come in and take up the budget bills, and the remaining bills that are in conference would be the plan. So that's what I'd like to do today, is try to get through at least half of the conference bills. We've done, I think, 10 so far.
Okay. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 bills remaining for concurrence today on the House side. They're almost all by Jack McFarland. He's got a stack of 5 bills that are all grouped together, but he's also got HB 1. 8. They got 8 bills scheduled for concurrence today. 6 of the 8 are by Jack McFarland. One's by Julie Emerson, another by Representative Eccles. But it's the HB 1 and HB 2 by McFarland and Emerson, respectively, that are the big dogs here. As soon as that's done, that means all the big money stuff is over with, and the level of give a darn drops. The want to continue drops. A couple of quick notes from, smaller things that are on the table here. There's a resolution that is going to be, it's up for its third reading for consideration. And this resolution is by Representative Charles Owen, who I had the great pleasure of meeting out at the legislative softball game a couple weeks ago. The resolution, it's H.R. 240, if you score these things at home, creates a special task force to evaluate the existing capacity of government and industry to model the behavior of geologically sequestered carbon dioxide and to develop a method to model the behavior of geographically sequestered carbon dioxide if none exists. It requires the task force to report its initial findings to the legislature by July 1st of this year. So basically half a month to get the ball rolling on studying the behavior of the carbon once it's in the ground. What I like about this resolution is it feels like we've moved off of the point of digging our heels in to say no carbon sequestration. This is Charles Owen saying, I want to be a step ahead of the game and make sure everything is cool the way we were told that it's going to be cool. That's one of the items that's still left to be heard today. So I know it's a very, very small item. It's a resolution, not a bill. So there's, not a whole lot to report on it. I just like the fact that it's kind of this pivot to say, what's the old Ronald Reagan phrase? Trust but verify. This would be the verify into that. And I like it. Over on the Senate side, there's a whole lot of concurrent resolutions still to go. I'm digging through here to see what actually might survive on the Senate side. Anything that passes over there, the rules would have to be suspended to get them signed off on the backside. SB 111 is in the list for reconsideration of vetoed bills. I don't know if they're going to get to that today. SB 111 is one that we are going to talk about later on the show. And just to kind of read you the abstract, well, it's about claims processing for insurance. And the text of it is like very, very legalese heavy. I'm looking at the clock right now. I don't think I could accurately break down what it actually does. But it limits a cause of action when certain conditions are present. Basically, if you're carrying a boatload of insurance and you get into an accident, an attorney for the person that you were in an accident can't hit you up and say, we're just going to blast out your entire insurance policy with a lawsuit. That's a super oversimplification of it, but that's kind of the gist. And it's listed on the docket for today. Don't know if they'll get to it, but since it's out there, I figured I would share. We're coming up on 6:30 at Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. And take a quick break. When we come back after news, traffic, and weather, Haggai Davis in the house for a cup of tech gumbo next. Yeah. Whew. Had a big old, like, it wasn't like a burp. It was just like something in my chest.
I figured that's why you cut it a little early. I was like,
I did.
man, you good. As long as you're good, everything's all right.
Yeah, I was sad I missed Jessica yesterday. She was awesome the last time she was in. Oh, crap. I didn't get to those other cuts.
No, it's all good.
We'll do them later. And good morning, Christy. Welcome in, sweetheart. I didn't even see you there. Troy says, newsflash, teachers have energy in NOLA during the summer without kids. Could it be the big-ass beers? I'm going straight to hand grenades. Tropical Isle hand grenade. Oh,
Hey. Okay.
oh, it's Tyler Bridges they talked to? Throw away those quotes. Never mind. Throw away those sound bites. I'm not going to do that story today.
Okay.
I need to go grab something off the printer. I'll be right back.
Okay.
I'll try and entertain the Facebook community for you.
Yeah, there we go. There we go.
So were you in the studio last 2 days by yourself?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, just sitting here taking notes while he was out there. That way I can work on the post show stuff. But yep, in here just hanging around.
Cool. So I think John, or
Brian.
Brian.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh God. It's right there on the screen. Where do you park when you?
Oh, in the back.
Oh, in the back. Okay.
Yep. I'm right there by the back door.
Okay.
Yep, yep. Yeah, yeah. No, that's a good question though. Yeah, I park right there by the back door. I'm the first one here in the back, so usually everybody else that gets here they park. They just make one. Everybody just parks behind each other.
Back door, so you never come in that way.
Yeah, yep, yep. Yeah, like right. If you look outside the window, you'd see my Explorer down there. Yeah, that's where everybody else, like the producers and different people like that. To your left, yeah, I'm down there. Well, maybe you can't see it. I don't know. But yeah, as the morning goes on, it's just kind of like, yeah, everybody's kind of pulls up back there. Oh man. Seersucker Day, huh?
Are we back already? Today's the last day for voting in our Rad Dad contest. It's back and bigger than ever. Roaming Shot Outdoors and Citizens Bank and Trust bring you Dad's favorite gifts ever. A green egg, thanks to Goodwood Hardware. A steak pack from Chris's Specialty Foods. Manly soap from Hawk Soap. And a hunting class for two from Roaming Shot Outdoors. Today is the last day for voting. All the submissions were in by the end of last week. So get your votes in today at talk1073.com. And, of course, happy Father's Day this weekend to all the Rad Dads out there. It is time for a cup of tech gumbo. Let's go. Fake AI cases in England. That's where I want to start. Welcoming in Haggai Davis, Cup of Tech Gumbo. How are you, sir?
Brian, I'm doing great. We had another milestone this week on Tech Gumbo.
Oh, what's that?
We've now had 20,000 downloads of our podcast.
Fantastic. That's awesome.
120 countries around the world and all 50 states in the United States and the District of Columbia.
Okay. Hey, one of those countries, is one of those countries England?
It is.
Okay. This is where I want to start, is in England.
Yes.
A senior judge said on Friday lawyers could be prosecuted for presenting material that had been hallucinated by AI tools. The court is warning lawyers to stop citing fake AI-generated cases. This is just too good to be true, Haggai. Tell me all about it.
So, not being an attorney like Franz, or at all, period, I guess I should say. When, according to this article, these attorneys are generating big, huge amounts of data to present their case. They're getting, these 15, 20, 30,000 word reports. And the longer you have ChatGPT create a document for you, the more likely it is you're going to get these hallucinations.
Yeah.
Again, we've said it before. You had a great conversation yesterday. AI as a tool. Use the tool, but then be a human and go back and double check the work.
Yeah.
Just because it's generated all these sightings, go back and verify each one of these cases do exist. And these attorneys in England apparently are not, and they're going to trial, and they're having these arguments, and they're citing these cases in their documents and everything, and it's not real. And the judges are saying, hey, look, if you don't verify these things, if you come out and you continue presenting hallucinogenic sightings in your work, we're going to prosecute you, because people have to have faith in the justice system. And if you win a case because you lied or made something up, then people are going to lose faith in the legal system.
So, I mean, I guess what's going on here is that AI just invented cases that never happened.
Oh, absolutely.
Why wouldn't AI be able to pull from cases that did happen?
Because that's what AI is just guessing. And it in ChatGPT has the wonderful ability to make up it's been so OpenAI ChatGPT has had a real bad problem of creating articles on the New York Times by authors that have never lived and certainly were these articles were never written. We talked a couple of weeks ago about the Chicago Sun-Times with their top 15 books of the summer to read, and 10 of them were made up books.
Right.
And so the same thing is with these large language models. They're just guessing words, and they know, hey, you're asking for some citations of some cases, and I can't find anything, but this sounds like I'll just make it up and it'll sound good. And that's what's happening.
Let me re-ask the question. Would it be so hard for ChatGPT to just spit back out, I don't know? I can't find what you're looking for. You're searching for something that doesn't exist?
One would think, but that's not what happens. And I don't know why I'm not the AI scientist that can really explain exactly why it does this, other than that it does. It is a absolute well-known phenomenon. It is documented over and over and over that AI makes things up. And it's good at generating content. It's good at generating pictures and songs and everything else. The summary that I used that I sent you, ChatGPT generated that for me. I take all the 500 pages of notes that I send you every week for what we talk about on the show, boil this down into the summary so I can post it on social media.
Mm-hmm.
And it does a great job. But I certainly go back and read.
But wait. Everything you put in to it's ChatGPT?
Yeah.
Everything you put into ChatGPT, it's got it there. It's summarizing what you've already fed it.
Yes.
It would be like asking ChatGPT to transcribe an interview that I do. And the information is already there. You're not asking it to go out and retrieve information from elsewhere.
Correct. I'm not asking ChatGPT create a show for me and let me go talk about it.
Right.
I'm using the tool to help me better summarize what we talked about than me trying to remember everything we talked about.
So when you're asking it to go out and find things that you're not feeding it, that's where we're running afoul of everything.
That's where people and that's where the students get in trouble when they start, give me a book report, a 1,500 word book report on War and Peace, and it starts making up other things because it knows War and Peace.
Right.
But it's just creating content, and if you're not going back and verifying all the characters that were right, sometimes, because if you say, give me a 15,000 word report on War and Peace, it's going to make a lot of things up.
Mm-hmm.
But if you just say, give me 150 words on War and Peace, it's going to be very concise.
Because it hasn't read War and Peace.
Oh, it's read War and Peace in multiple languages.
So, and this is where I keep getting stuck. If ChatGPT has read War and Peace, then everything it should need to know is already there. The same way you get your summation here, it should be able to do that.
It should, but you're not asking it to summarize. You're asking it to give me a report. So this thing can go in a whole lot of different ways. If you want it, and again, it gets back to the prompts when you're asking it. Are you, telling me I host a radio show and I need you to create this content based upon these parameters? Because what I do is I host a Tech Gumbo, the radio show. Here's an example of the summary. Here's everything we talked about. Please give me another summary based upon this. Mm-hmm. And it does a great job doing that. It's when you ask it to go out and just create things. That's when it gets...
That's what I'm saying, though. A summary of asking it to do a report on War and Peace, everything it needs for that report is within the book.
You're right. But the longer you have it create content, the more it can slip things in because it's trying to fill 15,000 words, as opposed to, because I don't know how long War and Peace is.
It's more than 15,000 words. That's a big old book.
It is a big old book, but as it's creating that content, it might decide to start throwing in references to other works by Tolstoy to balance it out, and then create books that Tolstoy never wrote.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. And that's where it leaves the rails.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. That being said, though, why do we all keep doubling down on this? In fact, you had another story about Business Insider laying off a whole bunch of employees to roll out with making AI do the former employee's job.
This is I don't understand these businesses that like OpenAI. They made $10 billion last year as a nonprofit.
Yeah.
And they're projected to make $125 billion by 2029.
Awesome.
Not bad for a nonprofit.
Yeah.
Because people are paying for subscriptions and they are using this and they're adding search into it. But when a company like Business Insider, which is a news media outlet, is laying off people because they can let ChatGPT go and make things up and get in trouble, this is where content creators like Business Insider get off the rails.
All right, this is where we're going to push pause. We'll take a quick break, check traffic. We'll check your money now. We'll continue with a cup of tech gumbo next on Mornings with Brian Haldane. It's hot in here.
That's a good question. Troy asked, is an AI hallucination akin to Picasso painting where it chops up real data and throws it together? Or is it tapping into actual fake info humanity created? No, it's kind of like a Picasso painting where you've got good-looking things and then you just throw something in to fill some extra space. It's not going, oh, look, unless you...
It's somewhere between the two.
Yeah, because, I mean, it will go out and cite The Onion or some other, whimsical website kind of thing because it's found some content there. So you do have to be careful about what it will pull in.
We give you a movie review on Rochelle or The Channel or any of the other movies that were in Seinfeld that should have been real movies.
Last summer, Google's Gemini was having problems because it found The Onion, and it was telling people that you had to staple the pepperoni to the pizza to keep it from sliding off, or use glue on your pizza to keep everything from sliding off, because the Onion had created an article about that.
Okay, so, and this is not I want your gut take on this. I don't want to make it a Franz segment.
Yeah.
Someone follows those instructions and someone gets hurt. Where did the lawsuits start coming in to sue OpenAI or ChatGPT? These hallucinations need to have repercussions.
You see, I'm pretty sure if you go into the terms and conditions, that 15,000 words that nobody ever reads, clicks I agree, you're holding them harmless for the search engine or the content that it creates.
I don't know that I've ever agreed to anything with ChatGPT.
I would think you did.
I don't think I have. And maybe
The very first time you signed on, I agree. You clicked yes.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I don't.
Oh, you do it so quickly you don't think about it anymore. We all click on them. I used to try and actually read the damn things. It was several years back. We did a story about Candy Crush, the video game. The terms and conditions on that was 12,500 words for Candy Crush. Because it's a free game, but Candy Crush searches and reads everything you do on your phone. So it sends all that information back to Candy Crush to sell ads.
Mhm. I'm having trouble remembering back to when I first signed up for ChatGPT. I don't even think I did. I think you signed me up.
Oh, I couldn't
It was
have.
you, me, and Gordy were sitting in the downstairs conference room.
That was probably Copilot that you already had because you had a Microsoft 365 account.
Okay, so if I have a Microsoft 365 account, those are the terms and conditions that I would have signed off on, and it's probably included somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, terms and conditions aside, whatever it says, held harmless, 15,000 words in. I don't care. You give me enough people to get on a class action lawsuit,
Oh, sure.
and I will give you the lawyers who will argue it right back.
We talked about one of those class actions against Google. Don't be evil. At the first story.
I thought the first story was about T-Mobile.
Or no, maybe not the first one. It's not. This is the first.
Turning away from AT&T.
The second story on the second segment. Page. What is it? Page 8. Google settles a lawsuit for $500 million to don't be evil. Oh, there's a fun one too. This AI startup, Builder.ai, was actually 700 people in India creating the code, not AI generating the code.
Oh, wow. .652 at Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, and everywhere in the Central Time Zone for that matter. We got a cup of tech gumbo rolling right along as part of Mornings with Brian Haldane. We've got Haggai Davis in studio with us. Haggai, you and I were talking during the break, and at what point is AI going to hallucinate? Someone follows the direction of AI, and we end up with whichever AI outlet it is being sued.
So there's terms and conditions that you click on. I agree, and they're anywhere from 5 to 20,000 words in paragraph after paragraph after paragraph of things you agree that you will hold them harmless.
When someone sues, this is going to stop being about the terms and conditions that nobody ever reads anyway, and all about the lawyer's argument and the judge's take on it. The human element will re-enter the equation here.
The other part is the Telecom Decency Act, the Section 230, is going to apply to these things because they're trying to skate along the line of OpenAI's or ChatGPT or Gemini is kind of like social media and kind of like a search engine where we're providing you results based upon your questions. You have to use some discretion with the information that we give you. It's like if you do a Google search back before all of the Geminis and LLMs and everything, you were given 500 or 5,000 links to the different things when you were searching for it. You had to go click on links and make your own choices. This is now taking that step out, and it's just giving you these answers. You have to decide if these answers are right. And that's what we've been saying on Tech Gumbo now for 2.5 years.
No, you're walking down the common sense path. I'm walking down the path of the person who blindly accepts what OpenAI gives them.
But that's no different than if you tell this person blindly, go jump off the bridge, and they do.
You don't have to tell me not to spill a cup of coffee on my lap because the coffee's hot. Yet someone sued McDonald's because the coffee was hot. You don't have to tell me. Yeah, I know. It's written on the cup now. Okay?
Yeah.
There's certain things that should be common sense, that should be understood. OpenAI does not have a disclaimer every time you put in a submission that says, this could be wildly inaccurate.
And that's why we talk about AI every week on our show, and most every week we talk about the fact that it's wrong at least 15% of the time.
Right.
In this article about what these judges in England are saying is that these extended long form content, it's wrong almost half the time
Mm-hmm.
when it's citing these cases that never existed, because it's just making things up. It's creating content, and that's what I mean. It's almost like you have to treat it like fiction until you prove it's accurate.
That's my point. People are accepting this stuff as fact. People are taking medical advice from ChatGPT. People are. I mean, it is so widely accepted at this point that I'm surprised people haven't been hurt yet.
You're not wrong. I mean, I agree with you. I don't know how more people have not really been hurt or done more stupid things that we read and hear about. But it's starting to come out because it's being more and more. There's still half the world that has never touched ChatGPT.
Oh no, I know.
And or it's actually closer to 80% that has never used ChatGPT or Gemini. But when you have more and more people start to use it, that's when we're going to see more stories like you're asking, where somebody blindly accepted a recipe how to cook something, and one of the ingredients was strychnine or something like that.
Troy says on Facebook, terms and conditions, disclaimers, etc., don't provide immunity. They're only presumptions. Speed bumps doesn't stop a court from finding the notice is insufficient. That's where I'm going with this. That's the question I'm asking.
And Troy's an attorney and understands that. So I'm not. So I'm trying. That's why I'm kind of tap dancing, because I'm not a good answer. Other than, the fallback from the IT guy says, "Oh, terms and conditions said."
When you look at the world in general
Mm-hmm.
and how we lean more and more on our smart everything to avoid being our smart selves,
right?
are you surprised we haven't gotten there yet?
No, we've become much less intelligent the more information
no, but that's
we
what
have.
I'm saying, though. Are you surprised this isn't already in a courtroom yet, where someone is suing ChatGPT or OpenAI?
I really don't know that people have gotten that far yet with it.
Okay.
Because there's just not that many people using it yet, and so I mean, you use it, I use it. We're part of this, way ahead of the rest of society who's doing so.
Meanwhile, Google's paying $500 million on being less evil. What's that? We had 2 minutes left. What's that about?
So Google, when they first started the company, their unofficial motto was "Don't be evil." I mean, everybody who worked at Google knew the phrase "Don't be evil."
Mm-hmm.
Be a better corporation. Be a better corporate citizen. Don't be evil. Well, once they hit the $2 trillion mark, that really stopped being the case. And so people have been suing, and they created a class action lawsuit to sue Google to force them to stop being evil.
How are they being evil?
Well, their practices, the way the algorithms work, and with their search engine, and it's not been as nice a culture as some of the folks who want it to be. Apparently, I saw the article. I just thought it was funny.
It is funny.
I mean,
be less evil.
Be less evil. I mean,
it's the number of times that we see stories in today, stories that were storylines on Silicon Valley on HBO.
Yes,
like 10 years ago. It's amazing how it's just reality is repeating what was already done on TV.
Absolutely, and so the fact that they settled for $500 million for this lawsuit. Okay, be less evil.
And Google can just cut that check and move on. It's unreal.
It's not even a rounding error.
Full serving of Tech Gumbo coming up Saturday and Sunday right here. And, of course, everywhere you get your podcasts on demand. He's Haggai Davis, joins us every Thursday. Always appreciate it.
You bet.
Here comes news, traffic, weather, hour 2. News, traffic, weather, hour 2 is next.
I'm not sure who Amber Heard is, but
that's Johnny Depp's ex-wife.
Oh, okay.
crapped in the bed,
Oh,
like intentionally.
okay. Yeah, don't be evil. Like, don't be a dick.
Very, very Gavin Belson.
Yeah,
Very Hooley.
yeah. Just, but I'm fascinated that 120 countries around the world have downloaded at least one episode of our show.
It's awesome.
My voice has been heard on all 6 continents.
That is awesome.
And probably Antarctica too, but that Podbean just doesn't register that. I mean, because you got to do a VPN to get out of there. But it's just fascinating that that many people, because we've never done a dime of advertising.
Mhm.
All we do is just put it out there in the podcast apps, and people find it and listen, and it's now that the YouTube music channel is a podcast, got 160 subscribers on YouTube. Just like, wow, really cool. It's awesome, folks.
Waiting for it to catapult.
I'd be curious to know, because we get about 100 downloads per episode. At what point is there a trip mark where, boom, it goes to 1,000?
Don't know.
I know. I mean, how many? The algorithms. The show's been around for a long time. There's over 500, podcasts have been released now, and at what point does that say, "Oh, hey, let's move you up in the rankings," or
Yeah,
do I have to?
I wish I knew the answer to this one.
Or do I have to go spend money to get moved up?
Okay, but that's like, you probably do, but that's like when I worked at Blinkjar, the comparison that Jared Broussard would use is that's like shooting steroids versus working out every day. You're going to get big real quick, but it's not sustainable.
Right.
You would rather the consistency in the workout, and that's the SEO end of it. Oh.
And I've never even played with the SEOs.
You should probably do that, just to make sure you're optimized, just to make sure that everyone who's possibly looking for it, and that's on a per episode basis, to make sure Google knows everything that's in that episode.
Yeah, probably should. So y'all doing any vacations this summer? Or?
Yeah. So next week, Monday and Tuesday, we're going to Carrie's orientation at Southern Miss. We weren't planning on doing a vacation this year because of sending Carrie off to college. We didn't know how money was going to be. And with Abby playing AAU basketball, we knew there were going to be a lot of weekends at the Doubletree and Sulphur. That was one weekend. But, she was with the regional team. So Gulfport, Alexandria, Sulphur, Lafayette this weekend, but she's not going. We went down to New Orleans, but like New Orleans, you could make the day trip. She had 2 tournaments here in Baton Rouge. We knew there were going to be added expenses that we weren't budgeted for, so we decided not to take a vacation. And then I did a segment about RVing, and I will pat myself on the back. It's pretty damn funny. About I forget what the news story was, but I did this whole side-by-side comparison of wanting to get in an RV versus staying in a hotel. It's like, on the one hand, I want to take the family out on the road like Clark Griswold. I don't want to empty a chemical toilet like Cousin Eddie. That was one of the jokes along the way.
We're actually going to rent an RV. We're going to fly to Seattle and
okay. Jeff Hilliard from Miller's RV called me up and said, I want to loan you an RV for a 4-day weekend. So that's what we're doing. Nice. And in radio fashion, I decided, let me find some sponsorship for it. The Louisiana Travel Association is going to sponsor it. Presley Wealth Management is going to sponsor it. And I'm still waiting to hear back from the Lieutenant Governor's office. But we're going to go to a state park. So.
Cool.
Yeah.
That'll be fun.
I hope so.
Well, it can be 5 of us in an RV
This will be
10
5
days.
of us. Well, 4 days, but
but these are 5 adults.
it's a lot to ask.
Oh, I know.
7:05, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Next again to Haggai Davis for a cup of tech gumbo. Hour 2's coming your way right now. Brian here with you, John LaBeouf producing. 74 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. I just can't catch my breath this morning, John. I don't know what's up with that.
Why? What
I
is
don't know,
going on?
but you're seeing me. I'm like struggling today.
Right.
Don't know what the deal is.
Making sure you're okay.
I mean, well, like
I asked you before we went into one of the breaks. Like, man, you good? Everything
yeah.
okay?
I mean, I got bailed like 8 seconds early one break.
Yeah.
It's just my goodness. I don't know. Whew. And it's not like I would have understood the last 2 days down to the
Right.
convention center when I was like physically walking to work in that soup that is New Orleans humidity. By the way, it's somehow worse just an hour down the road.
Oh,
As
man.
nasty as the humidity is here, it just the last 2 days, and it wasn't
Yeah.
the temperature at all. It was just like I mean, any more and it would have been straight up fog.
Convention center was kind of cool though.
Oh, you get
Did it
inside.
keep it cool?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Kept it comfortable.
Yeah.
Okay.
I often wonder, like, the colder it is inside the buildings, that mean it's making it hotter outside, like the immediate around it, like, oh, it's nice and cool in there. Nice and cool in there.
Yeah.
Same with the Sonesta Hotel where I was at. That was
Thanks.
awesome. We got a busy hour. This hour, we're diving into the legislative session in our next segment with Advantage Consulting. We got Crimestoppers coming up this hour as well. Right now, though, top stories and trending.
Number 5.
10 Chinese women were detained in an ICE raid of Baton Rouge massage parlors yesterday. The federal agency conducted a work site enforcement operation at 9 businesses across the capital area. ICE said the women are being interviewed to, quote, determine removability. The massage parlors were in Baton Rouge, St. George, and Zachary.
Number 4.
Grabbing this one from the Daily. No, I'm not. No, sorry. Grabbing this one from the Daily Report. About a year after opening, more than 2,000 people are now working at Amazon's Cortana Fulfillment Center. That's double the 1,000 jobs that were pledged when the center was first announced. This, according to Jessica Bro, a senior economic development manager at Amazon, who spoke yesterday at the Rotary Club of Baton Rouge's weekly meeting about the e-commerce giant's economic impact in the city.
Number 3.
Yesterday, EBR Metro Council passed a motion allowing the city parish to settle in a lawsuit involving demonstrators arrested in protests following the death of Alton Sterling by BRPD. That settlement was for $625,000. While we're looking in on the Metro Council meeting from last night, the Metro Council has approved Hunden Partners, a leading global advisor for destination real estate development projects, to serve as the city parish's advisor on the Baton Rouge Convention Center expansion and headquarters hotel development project. The approval authorizes the parish attorney and project special counsel to negotiate a contract with Hunden to lead a nationwide search for a developer for the critical economic development project.
Number 2.
That was number 3. Okay. Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development Secretary John Donahue is moving to a different role. He's leaving, which will leave the position vacant. Sources tell this to our news partners at WBRZ. Donahue was appointed as DOT Secretary in January of last year. Sources say he's moving to Executive Council, opening up the search for the next DOTD Secretary.
Number 1.
A pursuit in West Baton Rouge Parish resulted in a deputy firing a shot at a vehicle before that pursuit crossed into East Baton Rouge Parish. Started just before 8 p.m. An attempted traffic stop on I-10 eastbound. Driver refused to comply. That's what led to the pursuit. Deputies observed the suspect discarding a handgun from the vehicle. Law enforcement was able to later recover that handgun. However, the person who was attempting to flee in that pursuit did actually flee. So this is an ongoing investigation. What's trending, John?
Well, are Donald Trump and Elon Musk on the road to making up, keeping the bromance alive? Well, yesterday the president said he understands Musk lashing out and said, these things happen.
Why not? These things happen.
That's right.
We call each other pedophiles online all the time.
Right.
And not just that, but say we're involved in the largest scandal that I can remember of this type.
Yeah. I guess Trump understands, man. It's coming from a place of hurt. It's coming from a place of anger.
Sure.
Hey, speaking of Trump, headlines over ICE raid protests and riots aside,
he is actually showing positive polling results when it comes to immigration.
Imagine that. 61% of folks. 61% of folks are saying, yes, absolutely. The illegal immigration problem has gotten to a tipping point where we need to do something about it. What has been done to this point has not been sufficient, and what has been done to this point really feels like nothing. So, sure, round them up.
Yep.
And look, I mean, on the one hand, it feels heartless. On the one hand, it feels heartless. On the other hand, what other lawbreakers are you not rounding up? You know?
There you go.
Especially when you see the reports come out of an ICE raid resulted in finding, fugitives who were wanted for murder. And just that when those headlines roll through, it's going to resonate with the people.
Absolutely. Yes, it will.
Yeah. By the way, in another story, you know what? I don't want to. This will dive us down a rabbit hole. It's going to last for like 30 minutes.
Okay.
But no, we'll have a follow-up segment on this in the very near future. But the reason this matters is because traditionally when you see the midterm elections, the other side tends to gain ground. What we're looking at right now is we are seeing more ground being gained by the Republicans, and meanwhile the Democrats are spending millions of dollars to find out what men want. It's a study I don't understand. I'm not going to understand it. So, any hoosers.
Yeah. Well, tragedy coming out of India this morning. A plane headed for London with more than 240 people on board crashed.
An Indian Airlines plane. Yeah. I don't know a whole lot about this. Only what we've been hearing in our news at the bottom and top of the hour right there. And honestly, there's more details now than there were when I was driving into work this morning. So I'm sure as the morning wears on, we will get a lot more. It's just that's the gist of it. Is a London-bound Air India passenger plane with more than 200 people on board crashed shortly after taking off from an airport in Ahmedabad. I believe I pronounced that right. So, as more details come in, of course, we will have them for you. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk with Jason DeCuir from Advantage Consulting about the legislative session. Before we take that break, though, got to remind you about the folks at the Baton Rouge Metro Airport. Love telling you about flybtr.com. Why is that? Because they have a daily direct flight. In fact, I'm looking at the clock right now. I don't have the website open, but flight should take off about 2 minutes from right now. So you missed today's daily direct flight to Washington, D.C., right into our nation's capital, right to Reagan National Airport. And the beauty part about this is you can come home same day. Fly there, fly back, same day. Get it done, flybtr.com. Look, if your business has business in our nation's capital, or if you're scheduling your family vacation in Washington, D.C., that's a winner right there as well. Flybtr.com is such a great option. Supporting a local business, not having to haul an hour down the interstate, not having to pay those ridiculous parking rates, not having to deal with that TSA maze versus our TSA, which is downright pleasant. Take into account the full picture here and check them out at flybtr.com. All right, quick break. Last day of the session. Let's talk about it next. That's Jason. Oh. So last night, told my wife good night, worked on a little bit of work, came back to bed, and I was out like that.
Man.
Like I'm in my own bed.
Yeah.
Wife's next to me. Only problem is I got knocked out so quickly I didn't even bother getting under the covers. So I woke up like 2.5 hours later. I was like ice cold.
Oh, man.
Got a good 2.5 hours though.
Ooh. Man. But yeah, there's nothing like being in your own bed, man.
Yeah, but I love a hotel.
Yeah.
I just can't. I don't know.
Yeah.
If the mattress is off,
Yeah.
it was a really really hard mattress, which I normally like. It wasn't firm; it was hard.
It's just hard.
Yeah.
That's not
Also, it was a full-on 2-bedroom apartment I was in.
Okay.
I was at the Sinesta ES, which stands for extended stay.
All right.
So,
nice.
yeah, I need something smaller accommodations, bigger bed. Like if I'm going to go to a hotel, I want a king-size bed.
Yeah.
You know.
That's awesome.
Oh.
Just sucks the bed was hard.
Yeah.
Dang.
Boop, 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 boop. 716 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Going to the hotline in just a quick second. Do need to remind you that the Fighting Tigers of LSU are back in the College World Series, and we've got all eyes on Omaha, powered by Our Lady of the Lake. Listen daily for live updates from LouisianaSports.net's Hunt Palmer. Our coverage is also presented by GoFlow IV Spa and Yangling Flight. Go Tigers from Our Lady of the Lake, GoFlow IV Spa, and Talk 107.3. All right, last day of the legislative session is today. Joining us now from Advantage Consulting is Jason DeCuir. Jason, how are you, man?
Good, man, and I feel good about LSU's chances. We just got to get past this first game.
So I like the fact that we've got Arkansas first.
I do too, and I've been going back and forth about that. At first, I'm like, man, we got robbed. You should reseed everybody. Why are the two top SEC teams or the two top teams playing each other first? But then when you think about it, I'd rather play them first than third when we're on our third or fourth pitcher.
Right. I feel much more comfortable knowing Cade Anderson's going into the game than if we were like, well, maybe we can get an inning out of William Schmidt and an inning out of DJ Primo and what's the Johnny Holstaff. I don't want that scenario here.
Nah, I mean, we're going in with a full deck, everybody rested, loaded. This is the time you want to play them. If we can't beat them like this, then we would struggle with them in any event.
Exactly right. Also,
the bats
ahead.
have to come alive then.
So, little misconception about the Super Regional right there. We put up a lot of runs, but it wasn't an awful lot of hits. The bats weren't as lively as I first thought. We made hits with a lot of people on base, right? A few grand slams. So timely hits, but we got to have consistency. I forget if it was the first game or the second game, but one of the two games against West Virginia, they walked 8 and hit 5.
Yeah, that's right.
That's 13 free bases right there.
Yeah.
So, we do.
I feel good with our defense and pitching. We have to hit the ball consistently, and I think we'll be fine, Brian.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm really, really glad that we're on Thursday right now, and the concentration is still on the baseball.
Yeah.
You know where I'm going.
Yeah.
And not on the Jello shot challenge.
Yeah, no, that's right. And look, man, there's never a disappointing finish to the legislative session, right? Did you get your notice from CVS, your text message?
No. Well, I don't have. Hopefully, CVS doesn't have my phone number.
Yeah.
Was the text message as long as the receipts?
Yeah. It's been interesting. The last 48 hours, it's been all about PBMs. It's gone from insurance reform and legacy suits and carbon capture, and now you'd have thought the whole session was about PBMs.
I saw the news story about CVS. I haven't read it yet. Tell me a little more about it.
Yeah. So look, obviously, this is not so much a tax matter, and we'll talk about that. Although some of the tax bills, although it does have some implications, but basically you have what's called PBMs. They're pharmacy benefit managers, and they're the ones who do facilitate all the management of procuring of drugs and setting drug prices and making sure that all the pharmacies have the right amount of drugs, certain types of drugs. But there are PBMs who also own pharmacies, and CVS has that model. So the pharmacy benefit manager is also the pharmacy itself, where you walk in and get your drugs at retail. The legislature is of the opinion that creates an unfair advantage for other pharmacies and particularly independent pharmacies. So there was an amendment to the Dustin Miller bill yesterday that said basically in Louisiana, if you are a PBM, a pharmacy benefit manager, you cannot own a pharmacy. And that is the model that CVS has. When you talk about CVS Caremark, that is a PBM in and of itself. And so if this bill passes, they would either have to change their model or they would have to close down.
Oh, wow. And what's the likelihood that they would change their model for something that's happening in Louisiana?
Well, it first started in Arkansas with
Okay.
Ms. Huckabee, Governor Huckabee. And, obviously they're filing a bunch of lawsuits and, Commerce Clause, equal protection, those sorts of things. But the likelihood is they would not be able to change that overnight. So, it would be for a while, you may have some disruption with CVS. And a lot of the discussion on the floor last night, yes, it was about, is it unfair to independent pharmacies? Do PBMs that own pharmacies direct the drugs to them before, dispensing to other pharmacies they may provide drugs to? So that was a lot of the discussion. But the other discussion is if they did close down, would that leave sort of a gap in medicine here in the Baton Rouge area, Louisiana for that matter, because there's so many of them. Where do all these people start going and getting their drugs from?
Oh, I mean, there's plenty of outlets out there. I don't know though. Would Walgreens fall under that same model?
Walgreens has been silent. So to be clear, I'm kind of on the sideline watching and just that sort of thing. I don't have skin in this one way or the other.
Yeah.
But Walgreens has been silent, so I would have to assume they're not owned by a PBM.
Okay.
So my guess is the Walgreens would stay in existence, but I don't know that for certain. I just know that this issue has been all about CVS. When you see the text messages, read the headlines, the papers,
Yeah.
that's the only one that's really being mentioned, and that's the one that was impacted in Arkansas.
Okay. Well, and it's interesting to be impacted in Arkansas, the home of Walmart.
There's an interesting plot to that, Brian. You may want to look into it.
Yeah, I might dig into this one. Once the session's over with, though, there's too much circus still going on.
There is, yeah.
Let's talk about it. What's left on the table that you think can get done on the last? I mean, obviously HB 1 and 2, right?
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Still to come today might be what?
Yeah, those have to get done. The interesting thing, Brian, and I know you've had Blake on here a good bit. Appreciate you having her on. We've been talking about the redo of CA2 and breaking them out into 5 different constitutional amendments. And, we kind of get on here and say, man, those things are just sailing through. Well, all of a sudden, Houston, there's a problem. It does not look like most or all of these are gonna make it through. And, I have my theories. I think the Decetels amendment is constitutional amendment is one of the ones furthest along that it has made it through and is in conference, and then the one dealing with the restructuring of the teacher retirement debt and teacher pay is through, but the other 3 have kind of stalled, and I have some theories for that. The big one that we have been looking at was the combination of the Revenue Stabilization Fund and the Budget Stabilization Fund to free up some revenue for the legislators to utilize. And the chairwoman Emerson was carrying that, and what she wanted to use it for, which I thought was a great idea, let's use it to reduce sales tax rate. We have one of the highest combined sales and use tax rate in the country, and also continue to further reduce personal income tax. Well, those pieces, those bills to reduce our taxes were stripped out late in the process. So the reductions are not going to happen. And my thought is Chairwoman Emerson's thinking, well, why am I going to move this to the finish line if we're not going to use it to reduce taxes? And so that has kind of stalled on us, Brian.
And that's a big one, too.
It is. It's still sitting in finance as of today is the last day of session. Now, could they discharge it from finance and then suspend all the rules and bring it up for a vote? They could. I just don't see all of that happening today with all the conference reports that have to get written. But the timing is such that when the rate reductions were amended out of her other bill, this bill all of a sudden stalled, and I'd have to think that that's not coincidence. That hey, if I'm gonna free up some money, we're gonna use it to reduce taxes, and I like that idea.
Same, absolutely. We got Jason DeCuir from Advances Consulting on with us. Talk about what is to come for the last day of the session. I keep going back to Constitutional Amendment 2, and like, did we bite off more than we could chew with that thing? Everybody sold it as in it had something for everybody, so everybody had whatever reason to vote for it. But on the back end, we were told after the fact that it was too hard to understand, so people voted no.
Yeah, and then break it up into 5 parts, and then people understand it. Well, not really. I mean, how many people really understand what the Revenue Stabilization and Budget Stabilization Fund is? I mean, how many people really understand how the budget works, the growth in government, and inflation? I mean, these are all difficult concepts. So, we've talked about potato, I mean, tomato, however you want to look at it, Brian. I mean, it's a difficult subject to understand whether they're all in there or broken out. But I do think other things have come into play that has slowed these down. Now, on the decitels one with inventory, which we have talked about ad nauseum, this also kind of changed quite a bit as we neared the finish line. The reason I think they have to move that one forward is because they have decided they are not going to extend the inventory tax credit. The ability for local government to phase out the inventory tax has to be done by constitutional amendment. It failed on CA2, so they're trying it again. But they have a FOIL bill, Senator Franklin FOIL, SB 65, is a bill that passed yesterday, going up to the governor's desk to absolutely eliminate the inventory tax credit for good. Okay. So the only hope for business there is now that the tax gets phased out, and that has to be done. And the only way it can be done is by this decital bill, if it passes by the voters. Otherwise, the inventory tax, as you know, is stuck in the Constitution and cannot be phased out by any local government. So that's a big one that business is going to be looking at to ensure that it passes.
Okay, so to make sure I'm understanding this right, is basically the actions of this session are just further entrenching the inventory tax.
That's right. If this decital constitutional amendment does not pass and does not go to the voters, we are stuck with the tax, but business will no longer get the credit. So it could be a pretty big burden on business. And even if it does pass the voters, it's a local option, right? So East Baton Rouge Parish, if it passes, doesn't start phasing out automatically the inventory tax. They would have to opt out of the tax, either a 1-year opt out or a 5-year phase out, or they would have the ability to reduce the 15% tax rate on inventory unilaterally, if they so choose. It's not a guarantee. But they can't do anything unless their amendment passes.
Well, yeah, I mean, nothing's a guarantee on the back end, but you at least want the option. Unless it passes,
correct.
You don't have the option.
That's exactly right. And so, the Secretary of the Department of Revenue, his theory is, if businesses don't have the credit, then it's going to put a lot more pressure on parishes to start thinking about that opt-out because they don't have kind of this backfill. Right. And he believes that some parishes will start to opt out. I think it's going to be the wait-and-see game. Let's see what happens. There was a Ken Brass bill that was going to extend the credit at least past the election to see if the amendment even passes before we get rid of the credit, but they decided not to. And so this is going to be interesting to see how this one plays out.
I got 1 minute left with Jason DeCuir from Advantage Consulting talking about the legislative session, which is in its last day. What else has your eye? It's coming down to the wire.
Well, the severance tax package passed. I do think this is a good one.
Yeah.
And I know it provided a little heartburn within the oil and gas industry, and I get that, but ultimately they got on board. But one of the things we don't talk about, and we're still an oil and gas state, Brian, there's still a lot of jobs created off of oil and gas. And our severance tax rate is one of the highest in the country at 12.5%. Most are around 5 or 6%. So we have now sliced that in half. So it's about 6.5% down from 12.5. But in order to pay for it, natural gas uses what's called a horizontal well exemption, and they modified that slightly. So instead of getting a 24-month or 2-year exemption for drilling horizontal wells, you're now only going to get an 18-month exemption. I know that's complicated, but at the end of the day, they did make some adjustments and reductions to severance tax and the tax on drilling for oil. And I do think that's a good thing to help stimulate the economy. Greg Upton and others, for the economists for LSU, were very involved in that.
He is Jason DeCuir with Advantage Consulting. Can we squeeze one more week out of you to get the full postmortem?
I'd love to, Brian, and hopefully LSU's still hitting the ball.
Absolutely. We will talk to you this time next week. Always appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Be good.
You too. Here we are blew right past ABC News. Not to worry. We got local news, traffic, weather, Crimestoppers is next. What? Oh. Yeah, I don't like going back to having U.S. military bases named after Confederate soldiers. They weren't part of the U.S. We seceded. I'm going to get one more cup of coffee. Actually. I've been out of town the last 2 days. There's a summer flu going around. Yeah. I think they're past the point of infection because they're on the mend. So, but yeah, Abby missed basketball and strength and conditioning and basketball again Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. She never does that. I'm talking with Ned Fazzulo later today. Orchestra, Ned Fazzulo and his orchestra. He's doing a concert that's benefiting y'all. So, do you want the promotion of that concert to be one of these segments, or would you rather me add a segment for that? I'm fine either way. Okay, you got it. Can do. .737 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane. Rolling right along. Going to get into Crimestoppers in just a quick second, but I do need to remind you about the folks at Mathern's. Game day Saturday, y'all. If you're inviting some folks over to the house, maybe want to entertain, Mathern's has got you covered. You can either go the route of the catering trays, which they've got for you, over 100 catering trays to choose from, or if you wanted to handle the cooking yourself, they've got you covered there. There's 3 locations of Mathern's. You got them downtown on 3rd Street. You got them in the Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center right across the street from Tiger Stadium. And you've also got the OG Baton Rouge location. The old school Kenilworth Supermarket is back with the Mathern's, and they've got you covered over there by Kenilworth, Highland Road, right by Kenilworth. And they got some deals this week. You want to invite some folks over for the game and throw some cowboy ribeyes on the grill? Bone-in cowboy ribeye, $13.99 a pound right now. I know this because I have the weekly ad open in front of me. That's one of the things you get with the app is you get all the deals right in front of your face. And you can do your shopping on the app. You can earn cash towards more groceries every time you shop by scanning the barcode. They've got a stack of deals going on. Pork spare ribs, $1.69 a pound. Chicken split breast, $1.29 a pound. Manda smoked sausage, $6.99 per package. And I already told you about the cowboy ribeye at $13.99 a pound. It's all going on the Mathern's app. Download the Mathern's Rewards app today. All right, time for Crimestoppers. Let's roll. Ooh.
Yeah.
And we welcome in Lieutenant Don Capola. How are you, sir?
Hey, good morning, Brian. How are you?
I'm doing very well this morning. Very
good,
well.
Good.
Just got back into town yesterday.
Welcome back.
Yeah, spent a couple days down in New Orleans. Dr. Brumley brought me down to the Teacher Leader Summit for the Department of Education. So, yeah.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
You were missed?
Not really. I was still doing the show. I still did the show.
People know you're not in. It's just not the same.
I don't know. It looks good. It's fun. You know, we're in the convention center down there. Had the nice backdrop of an open expo hall and whatnot. So,
and after your Mathern's commercial, I'm hungry.
Cowboy ribeyes.
It sounded good.
Cowboy ribeyes at $13.99 a pound. I think I'm going to swing by. Need to make that happen. So.
Yes, sir.
What you got going on?
Oh, we have some bad guys to
Let's
look
get 'em.
to identify and to apprehend. We're going to start off with the Crimestoppers, Capital Region Crimestoppers Facebook page.
Yes.
Baton Rouge police detectives are attempting to identify 2 individuals who they believe were connected in a residential burglary on Monroe Avenue. This occurred June 4th of this year. There was one of the individuals, should be the first one on our Facebook page. It looks like he's carrying out a television set. There's a good picture of his face. His accomplice's back is to us in the other picture, but obviously if they're committing these crimes, they must know each other. So if we can get those individuals identified, get that.
I'm getting to the
information
picture
over
right now.
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the first of the two pictures, I think that if you know this person, you could definitely
There's no
make
doubt.
him out
and
there.
even the second picture, you have a good side profile of him.
That the second picture, I can't tell. Are they walking in stride? Like that takes some coordination.
It takes some
Is there
coordination.
choreography going on here?
It looks to be.
Are they doing a TikTok dance?
Well, being that we have a still photo, it's hard to tell, but you can only assume, and maybe that is the case.
Mm-hmm. Well, a little kid and play action going on over here.
Central Parish Sheriff's Office, they had the shooting incident on the interstate. I believe they've made 2 arrests.
Okay.
In that investigation.
Yep.
And then Central Police Department is looking for an individual who they believe committed a theft from a local store. There's a vehicle, a red vehicle that they believe he fled in, but there's some good pictures of that individual from Central Police Department.
You would think you'd weigh things in a risk versus reward sort of scenario here. First of all, it's a very identifiable vehicle.
Very.
It's not one that
That's
everybody drives.
No, not at all.
No, it looks like if you got a knockoff Matchbox car, that's what if you got your Matchbox cars off Temu, that's what your car would look like. But
just add water.
Yeah, but is he stealing houseplants, or is that just where the photo was taken?
I believe that's just where the photo was taken.
Okay.
Because there's a photo on top of the car. He's got some items in his buggy.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh whoa,
so,
is that a chainsaw? Your boy stole a chainsaw. Yeah, look at that.
A Husqvarna, maybe Husqvarna chainsaw.
Yeah,
and he's walking between the plants.
Okay. All right. Well,
So
Central PD's looking for him.
Yes, very identifiable. And moving right along, we're going to jump over to Denham Springs.
Well, can we jump over to West Baton Rouge first? Because I don't think y'all don't.
Yeah.
This was a story in our top stories in trending, Don, and this one is that it was breaking overnight, and over in West Baton Rouge there was a pursuit on I-10, and the pursuit crossed over to East Baton Rouge, and that's where the pursuit ended, without having the suspect apprehended. This was. Let me reset here. I'm waiting on my stupid internet. A pursuit in West Baton Rouge Parish resulted in a deputy firing a shot at a vehicle before the pursuit crossed into EBR. Officials said just before 8 p.m. they attempted a traffic stop on I-10 eastbound. Driver refused to comply. That led to the pursuit. Deputies observed the suspect discarding a handgun from the vehicle, which law enforcement later recovered. So hopefully they got some prints and they know where to find him. At one point, the vehicle reached a dead end, turned around, drove towards the deputy, resulting in the deputy shooting at the approaching vehicle. The suspect re-entered I-10 eastbound, went into East Baton Rouge Parish, where deputies lost sight of the vehicle and the pursuit was terminated. This incident is under investigation. So, if you were on I-10 eastbound last night, let's say between 8 and 9 p.m., do you remember anything? Make, model, license plate number, any of the license plate numbers?
Anything that you may have. And obviously in an investigation like this, Brian, with what transpired through this, someone must have information as well.
Right.
Okay. And because these suspects a lot of times talk or tell their plan, and you know, Crimestoppers isn't just a reactive, we're proactive. So if you hear something going on or somebody premeditating their ideas to you to commit some type of criminal activity, then give us a call ahead of time. But exactly, I mean, obviously, cars are on I-10 all hours of the day, all hours of the night.
Right.
You see somebody driving erratically. Take note of that. People usually take note of that because they're trying to avoid being hit by that vehicle. And any little bit of information helps. And if a firearm was discarded, you know, hopefully they're able to get some prints and, you know, at least buy the license plate to find the owner of the vehicle. Any information, contact Crimestoppers, 344-7867.
344-STOP is the phone number. Of course, we tell you about the P3 app all the time as well. Get yourself some photographic or video evidence.
Yes.
It's unbelievably easy to use. I haven't had to still have Fortunately,
but
still have
you
not
have it.
I
Just
have
in
P3
case,
app.
just in case
And-
you're on the interstate.
Right.
You see this, you can carefully.
Oh, you know what I saw on the interstate yesterday?
What?
Coming back from New Orleans, the dude that got hit by the train.
Oh,
They got a guy get hit by a train, and it was like traffic on 10 westbound was backed up.
yeah.
I'm like, why is traffic backed up? I don't see an accident or anything like this. Well, when I got up to it, I was driving past as they were putting the body bag in the corner van.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How horrible.
Now they're thinking there might be something else to it. He wasn't just hit by a train. There might be extenuating circumstances. But that was the story as of yesterday. Dude hit by a train. So
horrible
yeah.
news. And for traffic to back up, and you can only imagine, people getting aggravated, and to then learn that someone's life was lost.
I know.
It's it's really sad when you get to that point to later learn that a life was lost. So,
yeah, absolutely. All right,
we're going to jump over to Denham Springs Police.
Let's go.
They're looking for Dominique Williams. Dominique Williams, 25 years old, on the charge of obscenity. Investigators here believe that Dominique had gone into a local store, began fondling himself in front of the store clerk, made some crude comments while in front of this clerk. So Dominique Williams, 25, is wanted on the charge of obscenity.
Was there like a really good sale going on?
Well, I don't have that information.
I mean,
but what do you say?
Do we know when this happened?
This was going to be the latter part of May.
Memorial Day sale. It excites me too. I control myself, but a good Memorial Day sale will excite me as well, Don.
All righty. So if you have any information on Dominic Williams,
John's done. Got him.
Contact Crimestoppers.
At 344, stop. Stop being the operative word right there. Anybody else we were looking for, or you're just going to back in and after that one? I cramped.
Michael Moore III, wanted by the Baton Rouge Police Department. Michael is 21 years old, wanted on violations of protective orders, unauthorized entry of inhabited dwelling, and aggravated sexual assault with a firearm. Investigators believe he unlawfully entered a residence.
Mm-hmm.
A female acquaintance was inside, demanding some cash that was possibly owed to him, had some firearms on his person, threatened her with these firearms, and he was able to get away before police arrived.
And see, that's the frustrating one right there. And there's always one that just really ticks me off beyond the rest. I mean, you want to see stop to all of it, but that's somebody he knows.
Somebody he knows.
That's somebody he knows, and that.
Yes.
There should be information coming back around to that, because if it's somebody, it's somebody he knows, which means it's somebody she knows, which means she's got friends as well, which means she's talked to somebody who has talked to him. You've got a circle of people around there.
And we need those answers.
Yeah.
And people know.
Those are the people that need to step up.
Real quick, Erica Zeno, 27 years old, wanted by the Baton Rouge Police Department on illegal possession of stolen things and theft. It's believed that a piece of jewelry was stolen out of Mobile, worth approximately $10,000. Ms. Zeno's believed to have come down here, pawned that off at a local pawn shop here in Baton Rouge. So if anyone has information on Erica Zeno, contact Crimestoppers.
Stick around during the break. I want to talk about the pawn shop into this. And this is Crimestoppers. He's Lieutenant Don Capola. We do this every time on Thursday at this time every week. Your Money Now coming up on Talk 107.3. All right, sticking around through the break here, just for the Facebook Live audience. When something's believed to be pawned at a pawn shop, how hard is it to track down to that pawn shop, and what level of cooperation do you get? Because the pawn shop's gonna be out money now.
Well, and in this investigation, the pawn shop would be a victim of this crime because they are out of money,
right?
From what they paid out to later learn this item was stolen. So the pawn shops do a really good job of the relationship they have with the Baton Rouge Police Department and other departments. And I'm speaking for the Baton Rouge Police Department since I'm more familiar with the way things are done here. So there is an investigator who strictly deals with the pawn shops. If pawn shops take items in, it's not reported stolen, but they later learn that it is stolen, as in this incident, because it was stolen from out of state. They contact us, or if there's any questionable items, the rapport between the pawn shops and the department is for that reason.
How proactive are the pawn shops normally? Like if let's say this piece of jewelry was stolen in Baton Rouge, goes into the pawn shop. Does the pawn shop call in and say, "Look, this just came in, and I got"?
If there's anything that raises question, absolutely.
Yeah.
And if someone is trying to pull one over on the pawn shops, then that's what these guys are there for. The investigators with the department, to make sure that everything is what they say it is, and somebody's not just trying to get some fast money.
Right, and that's why this one would not set off the normal alarms, because even if the pawn shop owner had called BRPD and said, like, let's say it's a ring, or I don't know what kind of jewelry it was, but like, let's say it was a ring. Say, look, I got this ring just came in. It's got to be hot. And BRPD is like, we don't have any reports of anything stolen. Well, now the pawn shop is like, okay, we're all systems go
We're
here.
taking a risk,
Right.
Because
Right. But the pawn shop owner can't be expected to, like, there's no national, like, alert
No,
system.
it's not like it's a chainsaw or something that has a serial number on it that they can punch in and show that it is been reported
right
at the time. So, but yeah.
All right. Well,
I
I've always
appreciate
been
it.
curious about that level of communication, because I just assume if I'm the pawn shop owner, I don't want that risk out there, you know?
No, exactly. And if they do, if you are the one pawning that chainsaw that it pops up stolen, then a phone call is made. Somebody sent to the pawn shop to say, "Hey, this item is stolen. What is your dealings or learnings of this?"
Right.
So it's the relationship is really good between the two.
Good. Glad to hear that. That's encouraging, to say the least.
Hey,
Sorry about the 756 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. I took my jacket off already. It was hot in the studio. Oddly enough, the jacket is made to be cool. What jacket am I talking about, and why am I talking about what I'm wearing on the radio? Because today is National Seersucker Day. This is a day where up at the U.S. Capitol, you're going to see a slew of Congress people and senators repping the fabulous fabric that is seersucker. It is unbelievably, like, the difference between seersucker and wearing like a normal suit when you're out in the heat is all the difference. It breathes better. It's cooler. It's such a cooler alternative to heavier fabrics. And what I love about this, what I love about celebrating National Seersucker Day, state legislature did it yesterday. State legislature, they were all wearing their seersucker yesterday. So they were a day premature for National Seersucker Day. But today is National Seersucker Day. So if you've not yet left the house, maybe throw on that Haspel. And yeah, when it comes to seersucker, there is only one for me. And that is Haspel. They are the OGs in the United States when it comes to seersucker. And I say in the United States because I want to make sure I have this history right, so that the folks at Haspel don't kick the door in and beat me up about it. It originated in India, and well, if you know anything about India, it's hot over there too. It originated in India, but when it was brought back to the United States, Haspel was the place where it launched here. So, right down the road in New Orleans, been around for well over 100 years now. And it is a Southern staple. It is a great look. Oh, by the way, a great look. And now, so John, you saw my jacket, right?
Yeah.
It's not the traditional seersucker. Now there are so many variations of it to where everybody associates seersucker with the Easter Sunday suit, right?
Right.
You wear that Easter Sunday suit. That's what you got going on. It's so much more than that. I have two different seersucker jackets. I don't even have a traditional seersucker suit yet. I have two different jackets that I can throw on at any time to go anywhere.
They're cool. They go with anything,
yes,
right?
they do.
Yeah.
They're cool. They're comfortable. They're a great look. And believe it or not, really, really affordable.
Nice.
And you know, when you're buying Haspel, you're getting the best.
Yeah.
You know you're getting the absolute best quality out there. And we celebrate it today, where everybody around the nation gets a little taste of it. And not everybody goes Haspel.
Yeah.
They should. But it's where a New Orleans brand, a Louisiana brand, makes that splash on a national stage. In fact, a couple weeks ago, you might want to go look this up. A couple weeks ago, CBS Sunday Morning News, and big shout out to my wife because she watches CBS Sunday Morning News darn near every Sunday, did a whole thing on New Orleans, and Leslie Stahl from CBS Sunday Morning News did a whole thing on Rubenstein's and Haspel, and like just the brand itself, the why it's so applicable here, the history behind it and all. It's a great day to celebrate something that is associated with us in Louisiana. All right, it's 8 o'clock. Hour 3 is next.
Yeah, that's what I was playing, that throwback. I don't know if you heard that song in there. Seersucker Suit is the name of the song.
Okay.
Apparently from the movie Gas Station Takeover. Never heard of it.
Never heard.
But I just wanted to see if there was some song associated that I can cue up. And sure enough, there was.
All right.
I was like, okay. Was not expecting that. I wasn't expecting to find songs. But yeah, I guess, yeah, there's a couple. Huh. Pretty cool. I've learned so much about fashion being here, you know? Got my occasional sports coats, you know, with different variations in color, but yeah.
I'm a big Haspel supporter. I love not just the history behind the seersucker, but the history behind Haspel as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So
That's why I'm like, man, they look so freaking comfortable. But I'm gonna be honest, before working there, it's like I didn't know the difference between, you know, things like that.
mm. Adeline's coming in again today. I want her to do a long version story from Cade Brumley's interview. I know you probably posted it with but I want her to do one with pulled sound bites and whatnot. And I might have her skip next Monday because I'm not gonna be here. 806 Talk 1073 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Hour 3 coming your way right now. Brian here with you, John LaBeouf producing. We got a busy third hour for you. Daniel Erspamer from the Pelican Institute in our next segment. Lana Venable from Louisiana Lawsuit Abuse Watch at 8:35. We're going to get you to this day in history in just a minute, but couple of quick notes. First of all, thanks again to Don Capola for stopping by for Crimestoppers. But on top of that, sticking around during the break to talk about the relationship that pawn shop owners have with police in communicating when they think something is, doesn't look right. He gave us a little background in that, a little peek behind the curtain. If you were watching on Facebook Live, which we're on Facebook Live every day, courtesy of the folks over at Lake Urgent Care. In fact, if you download the Talk 107.3 mobile app, you can find out what you missed every day. You can watch us on Facebook Live every day or on YouTube Live. All of that coverage is brought to you by Lake Urgent Care. But it was a really, nice little peek behind the curtain to get a look inside the world of, some of the groundwork that goes into law enforcement. It's cool stuff. So I appreciate Don for taking that deeper dive right there. And, of course, thanks to the folks at Lake Urgent Care for bringing us that Facebook Live feed. All right, it is time for This Day in History.
Okay. Let's go. Let's go, man. In 1864, Confederate forces attacked Fort Stevens, barely 4 miles from the White House, with Abraham Lincoln observing the battle.
Wow. All right.
Just watching on, man.
Yeah.
Oof. 1935, Senator Huey Long of Louisiana speaks continually for 15 and a half hours and then Senate's longest speech.
At the time.
Yeah.
His record's been broken a couple times.
Wow. At 150,000 words. Wow.
Over 15 hours?
Yeah. That's definitely been since then.
Yeah.
It's been broken for sure. 1942, Anne Frank receives her diary as a birthday present in Amsterdam.
Oh, teasing what's coming up in birthdays.
I'm telling you.
I'm on it.
Yep. 1964, Nelson Mandela is sentenced to life in prison for sabotage in South Africa.
Really?
But he serves 27 years.
Okay.
Let's see. 1977, groundbreaking ceremony for John F. Kennedy Presidential Library and Museum in Boston, Massachusetts. That happens today.
Yep.
1981, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Of course, the first Indiana Jones film, directed by Steven Spielberg, premieres today.
Okay.
And yesterday, he had 2 different years, but E.T. and then Jurassic Park he had on the same day.
Yeah, Spielberg's done a few things.
Yeah.
He did a little bit.
A little bit. 2017, Forbes released the top 100 highest paid entertainers list. Guess who makes the top of that list? P. Diddy at number 1 with earnings of $130 million.
All paid in baby oil.
Dang it.
Yeah.
2018 Singapore summit between North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and U.S. President Donald Trump. The first time a North Korean leader and an incumbent U.S. president meet. Incumbent. What did I say? Incumbent?
I think you said incumbent.
What am I doing?
I don't know. Hey, this day in 1987 was the famous Ronald Reagan quote, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Tear down the wall. Okay.
I don't want to try and do a Ronald Reagan because I'm going to mash it up with a George H.W. Bush.
Yep.
Because it's been that long. So, this day in 1939, the Baseball Hall of Fame opened up in Cooperstown. The first class, Grover Alexander, Ty Cobb, Eddie Collins, Walters Johnson, Nap LaJoie, Connie Mack, Babe Ruth, George Sisler, Tris Speaker, Honus Wagner, and Cy Young. That's not a bad first class right there.
No, not at all.
Pretty good guys there. This day in 1997. All right, what do you think happened in baseball on this day in 1997?
I don't know.
The first interleague play, major league interleague play began on this day. It was the Giants and the Texas Rangers were the first interleague baseball game.
That was going to be my third guess.
Where the AL plays the NL. So.
All right.
Yep. Birthdays?
You mentioned George H.W. Bush.
Yeah.
Yep. Today, his birthday.
So, didn't want to slide down that path. That's why.
Yeah. Let's see who else we got today. Jordan Peterson as well.
Oh.
And Anne Frank, of course, receiving her diary on her birthday.
Yep.
Let's see. Anybody else on your end?
Got a couple over on this end. Let's start with, dang it, a frozen internet. We're going to start with a frozen
We'll
internet.
start there.
Yep. I really, really don't like this. It's getting to be every day.
It's like,
We had David Rockefeller was born on this day in 1915. We had Chick Corea born on this day in 1941. Musician Chick Corea.
yeah.
We also had two from the world of sports for you. Yes! Marv Albert, born on this day in 1941, and former Pelicans guard Drew Holiday, born on this day in 1990.
Okay, I got another musician here, Kenny Wayne Shepherd as well today.
All right.
Yep.
Go ahead.
As far as deaths go today, Nicole Brown Simpson today.
Really?
Yeah. This day, 1994.
Wouldn't that mean someone else was died on this day as well?
Yeah.
Maybe Ron Goldman?
Yeah.
Kind of happened the same time?
Oof.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Saint Leo III, former Pope Saint Leo III, died on this day in 816.
Okay.
Not 1816, 816.
816.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
You also had that died on this day Jerry West, former basketball player Jerry West, Saul Alinsky, activist Saul Alinsky, and Gregory Peck.
Okay. Yeah. All right. We're going to stick with National Day, Seersucker Day.
National Seersucker
We're
Day.
gonna go with that, yeah.
Yep, it rules this. It gets the stage to itself.
That's it.
All right, hey, we're at 8:13 to Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Quick break. When we come back, we got Daniel Erspamer from the Pelican Institute next.
Are we? He's calling us, right?
I don't know. Let me give his number.
You want me to mute it? Or are you texting it? Oh, okay. Studio. Hi, good morning, sir. Yep, I was just about to call you. Yeah, we'll have you on here in about a minute or two. All right, thank you.
Oh, I'm supposed to stand up. Oh. $8:15, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, taking a deep dive back into the legislative session in exactly 60 seconds. Do need to remind you about the folks over at Breck. Breck.org is the website. Breck.org is the website. That's where you're going to find them online. Where you're going to find them in real life? Everywhere. There's parks all over the place. One of the things I love about Breck, and you'll know I'm a huge supporter, is the fact that they have to be all things to all people, right? No matter what it is you're into, they've got something for you at Breck. Golf, got you covered. Pickleball, they got you covered. Tennis, they got you covered. If you just like to get out there and run, you're good to go there as well. Learn more at Breck.org. Don't forget they got summer camps that are still available right now. Registration's been open for some time for summer camps, but you know how it goes when you're trying to manage the kids over the summer. Maybe that week that got missed, where you don't want them sitting on the couch all week long, hit up Breck.org. Look up the summer camps. Get your registration done right now over at Breck.org. All right. Last day of the legislative session. Will it be chaos? Will it be turmoil? Will there be grinding and gnashing of teeth? Joining us now to talk about it is Daniel Erspamer from the Pelican Institute. How are you, sir?
Hey, good morning. I'm surviving.
Are you at the Capitol today, or are you back at the home base?
I will be this afternoon.
Okay.
I'm not yet. Yep.
All right. All right. So I was actually going to stop in and see y'all yesterday, but I didn't know if you were going to be at home, because I was down in New Orleans for the Department of Education's Teacher Leader Summit. I was like, you know what? I could walk from the convention center over to Poydras and pop in on the good folks at the Pelican Institute. But I was like, you know what? They're probably at the Capitol, so I skipped it.
That's right. That's right.
All right. What has gotten done that has the Pelican Institute's attention?
Oh boy, there's going to be a lot of unpacking you do after this session. Let's start with some good news. The legislature, without objection, passed what is, by my estimation, the most significant reform of safety net and welfare programs, certainly in the last 30 years around the country. We call it One Door. Mm-hmm. Basically, the idea is to streamline these a variety of disconnected programs aimed at addressing poverty that all too often have the unintended consequence of trapping people in the system. And what this reform will do will streamline those under one roof with one case manager that can treat the recipient as a whole person rather than just someone who has to go to 20 different offices to collect a check. And most importantly, it is a pathway to work and opportunity. So it ensures that all of those programs are pointed toward an exit strategy, that we can help folks find good, meaningful, gainful employment, provide them the support they need to get there, and then hopefully help that individual lead a life of flourishing. It is so exciting.
Talk to me a little bit, Daniel, about how it's a trap. Like what sets things up? Because it's not an intentional trap, to be sure, but it just ends up that way. How does it end up being a trap?
It does. We can model what we call the benefits cliff in many cases, where we are actually disincentivizing work and family formation because, for example, if you get a raise or a promotion or pick up a new shift or get an Uber route, whatever it may be, you actually will lose more benefits than you get, than the dollars you're getting from work. And everyone, left, right, middle, agrees this is a huge disincentive and a huge challenge. And the other reality is right now, if you're a person that has fallen on hard times and qualify for support, you may have to go to 15 or 20 different offices, and those programs are segregated. They don't talk to each other. They don't connect with each other, and it's a huge challenge. So it takes up a full-time job just to go figure out what help you might be able to get.
And that's where I was hoping you would go with this, because that is the hard part. If you're spending 30, 35 hours a week just trying to keep track, and I'm probably exaggerating by a little bit, but not by much. But if you're just trying to keep track of everything you need to keep in order to keep your benefits going, then when do you have time to look for a job?
That's right, or take an extra class or get trained in a skill that would help you get an even better job. All of those problems are right there.
One Door is a big win throughout. What are a few of the other wins that we've seen so far?
Yeah, so we've seen some regulatory wins. These are things probably not on most folks' radar, but what we have seen, of course, over the last several decades is a significant expansion of the regulatory state. So these are rules that aren't made by the people's representatives in the legislature, but by agencies and appointed or civil service folks. And so, again, not to suggest there's bad intentions there, but those pile up, and it's the legislature's job to make the rules. So, two bills. One we called the REINS Act. This is a debate that's happening in a number of states around the country. Provides legislative oversight to any significant or expensive rule that is issued by an agency. So this just puts common sense checks and balances in the system. The other is an issue for those that are in the legal community will remember something called Chevron deference, which the U.S. Supreme Court overturned in this Loper-Bright case this year. But but that didn't apply here. We have a different standard, of course. And so this is a legislative instrument that says the courts cannot automatically defer to the administrative rule. They have to start with the text of the legislation.
Wait, I'm sorry. Expound upon that a little bit. That does sound big.
Yeah, it is big. So what happens a lot is you get in a lawsuit in court or discussion, and basically under the Chevron deference standard, and in Louisiana we call it the Skidmore deference, is basically the courts have to assume the agencies are right, that their interpretation of the law, we're going to defer to those agency decisions rather than start back with the text of the actual of the actual statute. And so it becomes a sort of self-fulfilling cycle and makes it very difficult for someone maybe to challenge a regulation. And so it basically puts the power back to the statute, again, back to the people's representatives who are empowered to make laws and make sure that the judiciary is really following and interpreting based on those laws.
I like that. Yeah. It's a balance of power here. If I'm hearing you right,
That's exactly right.
Resets the balance of power overall.
It does. So this was sort of something that flew under the radar a little bit, but a big win and puts Louisiana. It makes us even with the rest of the country with the Supreme Court decision, and make sure that we have the right balance of power here in our state.
We're talking with Daniel Erspamer from the Pelican Institute about the session, which will wrap up at the end of I'm predicting a couple of hours early. I think they get out by 2.
I think so too.
Yeah. I'd say I've had folks tell me that no, they're going to go all the way up to 6, but you know how it is. As soon as HB1 and HB2 are done, like everybody's mentally clocked out at that point. It's
That's right.
Yeah, everybody's got they start fidgeting a little bit, shaking the car keys like they want to get out the building. It's and it's natural. They've been going at it for some time now. Daniel, I want to talk about, if we could rewind the clock back to the Solutions Summit.
Yeah.
How much of what was talked about in the Solutions Summit came to fruition during this session, and how much did just the what hit the fan, and it was every man for himself?
Yeah, a number of things. So we've certainly, One Door was featured prominently, discussion on that.
Yeah.
As well as we had a couple of breakouts on these regulatory reform ideas, and so a number of things that were talked about there made it all the way through. Now there were some very notable. Some of these aren't quite done, but we can predict the the future a little bit. Certainly, we talked a lot about the importance of LA Gator and ensuring the 40,000 students who have been on nearly 40,000 who applied for the LA Gator program. That funding, if HB1 passes, the budget passes the way it looks now, we're going to have nearly all of those kids still waiting. And that is just heartbreaking for the families who have worked so hard and really engaged to get to get another choice in their education, to allow them to attend a school that fits them. So obviously that was prominent in our conversations and made its way through the House, and the Senate chose otherwise. So we have work to do there, on behalf of those kids and families who have asked and begged for another choice.
The LA Gator was one big educational one that, it did. We painted ourselves into a corner with CA2. I feel like I'm saying this on repeat. We painted ourselves into a corner on CA2, and LA Gator feels like that's just not beefing that out to the number it needs to be is kind of collateral damage from it.
I think that is conventional wisdom, and there's some truth to that. I'll say this, though. This is the governor asked for nearly $100 million, which still would have only funded, about a third of those kids, but a great step forward. And the Senate said, no, we're going to cut that down to about 40-something million. At the same time, adding, $100 million or more in pet projects into the budget. So, the budgeting is about priorities. So the question is, do we care more about splash pads and parks and not that there's anything wrong with parks, but state funding of these programs, or do we care about helping kids find a school that's going to help them succeed?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we see where the priority decisions were made this year. Hopefully, we can work over the next few months to make the case that this is the most important priority the state has.
One would hope. And we did see money for high dosage tutoring get re-upped a little bit as well. So, and then talked about that at length with Dr. Brumley yesterday down at the Montreal Convention Center for the Teacher Leader Summit. The high dosage tutoring, I still look at that as a big win.
Yeah, this is important for kids who have fallen behind, who need some extra help. What we have to be sure is this doesn't just turn into rewarding school districts for not preparing their kids. So I think it's important these dollars get focused really on learning loss, helping kids get caught up, and not just get part of the system that has failed a lot of kids already and has helped a lot of kids. But we've got to make sure we can provide those options and provide just that exact educational fit for every kid.
Talk with Daniel Erspamer from the Pelican Institute. Sticking on the topic of providing opportunity along the way, Paula Davis's bill on the Murphy Foster, goodness gracious,
MJ
Foster Promise Program. Sorry,
yes.
I knew there was alliteration on the back end. I was just breaking on it. The Promise Program.
Yes, very very valuable to expand that opportunity, especially to include folks who who may have something on their record. This is always our challenge is, when someone has committed a crime and served their time, the best way to make sure they don't get back into a criminal behavior, don't commit future crimes, is to help make sure they have opportunities to get education training that lead to a job. And so Representative Davis's bill is a really, really important tool to help expand those opportunities to that group of folks so we can really help those who need it.
We got 2 minutes left in this segment with Daniel Erspamer from the Pelican Institute. And, yeah, we're going to get you back on in short order once it's all done for a full postmortem. In these last 2 minutes, is there anything you're eyeing up that's close to the finish line today that could still make it across?
Well, all eyes are certainly on the budget, and we'll see as everything goes down there. There are a number of bills in conference committee that we saw yesterday a sort of last minute major policy decision come up in a conference committee that no one's had a chance to debate or discuss, and the House passed it. This is this big issue over PBMs, pharmacy benefit managers, and pharmacies. And look, there's plenty to discuss and debate on there, but surely we can. Apparently we can't, but surely you would think we could draw the line at saying we're going to ban a certain type of business in Louisiana. I suspect that lawsuit gets filed shortly upon that bill becoming law, should the Senate pass it today. There's a lot of rhetoric tied up in there, but the core function is the big anti-market measure that we've got to just keep an eye on. So there's a bunch of stuff happening there. I think the big things we've been watching are pretty much on their way through. But we got to keep an eye on those conference reports because they flip things in at the last minute, and only a few hours left to vote on it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we will have not one, both eyes on it today as they will close up shop. He is Daniel Erspamer from the Pelican Institute. We will reach back out, give it about a week or so. Once we can unpack everything fully, we'll have you back on.
That sounds great. I appreciate you, Brian.
Always. Thank you, Daniel, so much. It's 8:30 at Talk 107.3 FM. Here's news. Oh. Seersucker day. I don't have a traditional seersucker suit. I have 2 jackets that I basically wear everywhere. Yeah.
Medical transparency, not so much 100%.
You are. You are. You're good to go. Thank you. I feel discombobulated because I've been out of town since Monday. Well, and I've been completely dialed out of it because I've been down. But last year they did the Teacher Leader Summit like the week after school was out, so I had a week to catch back up again on everything that was going on. This year it was pushed back a little bit. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why I got pushed back a week. Probably has something to do with scheduling at the convention center. When was it available? Because it's 7,000 educators. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm getting back just in time for the close of the session. So, ill time. It's fun to take the show on the road. Yeah, conference committee. Sneaky with the language. $244, you said? That's a lot of stuff. Huh? Yeah. Oh, wait till 9. Well, I've done a little bit on Moon all day yesterday. He kept pounding away with the soundbite. You put it on my desk. And hey, kill the mics real quick. 8:38, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. We're diving right back into the legislative session in 60 seconds. I need 60 seconds to preview tomorrow. Salt, pepper, oak, going to be in tomorrow. Salt, pepper, oak. Yep, we're doing barbecue again. Why? Because it's summertime. It's grilling season, baby. It's barbecue season. And the folks at the Louisiana Beef Industry Council make sure that we're up to speed here. Not just on learning about beef itself and the protein and the iron and the 10 vitamins and minerals, about how beef is fuel for your body at all stages of life. You can learn more about that at beefitswhatsfordinner.com. But the whole point of Foodie Friday is to up your game and up mine on the grill. When you're firing up the grill this summertime, get a few tips, get a few tricks, a few hacks, if you will. And tomorrow we will be doing that with Salt, Pepper, Oak right here on Talk 107.3 FM. And it is brought to you all summer long by the Louisiana Beef Industry Council. All right. Back into the legislative session, we've got Lana Venable from Louisiana Lawsuit Abuse Watch in with us. Welcome into the studio. Glad to have you in person today.
Good morning, Brian. It's been a while. Glad to be with you.
No, glad to have you. Yes, it's been a while. So, are you headed straight to the Capitol right after this?
I am not today. I am sitting on the sidelines, watching from home to see what happens as we sort of put together overall what we've seen happen this session. Definitely some wins that we're excited about, and some losses that we're not so excited about.
Where do you want to start? You want to start with wins or losses? And by the way, we'll get a full postmortem next week. But for right now, though, that which is complete so far, where do you want to start? Wins or losses?
Well, let's start with the good stuff.
Yes.
There were several wins. I think we had overall more than a dozen what would be considered reform bills that dealt with either direct legal reform or insurance reform that came out of the House. Unfortunately, at the end of the day, there were 4 or 5 that I think we looked at as really solid bills that we were excited to see pass. Representative Chenevert, who we were just talking about, who as a freshman always comes through with great legislation for us, and she had a modified comparative fault bill that really changes the game. It limits damage recovery if the plaintiff is found to be 50% or more at fault in the accident. So. Right. I don't know how many of us, myself included, realized that the bar was so low for collecting damages in an accident, even if you were at fault.
Yeah, if you were like 90% at fault, you still had that comparison going on, and you could still sue, and that would have paired so well with SB 111, which we'll get to in a little bit. It would have paired so well with that to just really, my soapbox on this has not been so much about the letter of the law, but the spirit of the law and the mindset of the people. And how do you curb behavior? And jackpot justice is a mindset. So Representative Chenevert's bill goes a long way towards saying, don't do that. It's not worth it.
Exactly, Brian. And we've talked about that many times. And it is changing the way that we look at lawsuits. Lawsuits should not be a cottage industry. They should not be economic development for individuals or for our state.
Right.
And so that's a real problem that we have in Louisiana. Our businesses are aware of it. We hear about it all the time from businesses that are looking to either expand or locate here initially. It's a real problem, and it is something that they look at. There are studies that rank us, near the bottom when it comes to our business climate. And, of course, the judicial hellholes list that we talk about every year, we haven't gotten off the top 10 since, I've been doing this for about 8 years, and we've never made it out of the top 10 in all that time.
Incredible.
So very disappointing. So we've got a long way to go. But the good thing, certainly, Representative Chenevert's bill 431 is definitely a good, solid bill. The housing presumption by Representative Mellerin. So last year we had this bill. It was vetoed by the governor. Very happy to see it make it all the way across the finish line and be signed this year. That's important. That means that if you are in a wreck, it's not, and you're sued, it's not automatically assumed that what happened to you in the wreck is caused by that accident.
Right.
That there could certainly be a pre-existing condition that was not a part of that, and now that presumption is removed. So positive.
Now, and as much as I love the housing presumption, it's because it opens up conversation. You weren't allowed to ask before. Now, I mean, I don't know if we're actually going to get it across the threshold to where we can prove things, but you're allowed to open up that path of conversation, which is all the difference.
That's right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
Previously, that door had been closed and locked, so that's definitely a good thing. And we thank both of those reps who've been heavily involved in legal reform since they've been on board as freshmen, and it's been really one of the key platform for both of them. So we appreciate them a lot. Another one that's really important is what we call the No Pay, No Play bill.
Yeah.
That's Representative DeWitt, and so that allows for recovery limitations if you fail to have auto insurance. So again, that's sort of similar to the one that we talked about earlier, where if you don't have auto insurance, should you be allowed to collect damages from an accident? And you're already not following the law by not having the auto insurance. So then, should you be able to profit on top of that? Obviously, we're not talking about anything beyond. We're talking about not general damages, but socioeconomic damages, but other damages that are not as easy to quantify.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that one's really important by Representative DeWitt. All those have been signed. Another one that's really good is Representative Furman's 436, and that prohibits undocumented immigrants from being able to collect general damages in an accident as well. So these are all positive moves to help us begin to change that mindset, that shift away from looking at an accident as, hey, I've just won the lawsuit lottery. We want to change that. We feel like these are all very solid steps in the right direction, and we appreciate that the governor has signed these and that now that these are all law.
You haven't gotten medical transparency yet because it's not across the finish line. You get any pulse or take on whether it's going to get there?
Yeah, I mean, we believe that it will.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's been sent to the governor.
Yes.
It hasn't been signed yet, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say we believe that he will sign it or that it will become law. Still looking at the devil's in the details, still looking at that one on that, but it certainly was amended and it is not quite as strong as we would have hoped that it would be.
This one is a big deal because it's one that the governor vetoed last year.
Correct.
A similar bill last year. This year, and in fact, when the governor was on with us a couple weeks ago on this show, he said this year's bill is a much better version. I don't know that he guaranteed signature of it. Now, he did say at the beginning of the session, you put an insurance bill on my desk, I'm going to sign it. Okay. I don't want to
think that's a good segue, Brian.
Yeah. You remember when George Herbert Walker Bush said, read my lips, no new taxes? And that came back to bite him. I have a feeling you put an insurance bill on my desk and I will sign it might come back to bite the governor because he has vetoed one.
Right. And this is one that kind of flew under the radar, I think, for most of the session by Senator Seabaugh, who has been a tireless champion for legal reform for the many years that he's been in the legislature, in the House, and now in the Senate. And so this would have really helped to bring consistency back to and clarity and fairness back to our legal system. And this would have limited a cause of action when certain conditions are present. And so this would have just really helped us be able to look at damages through a different lens and sort of limit that mindset of, like we were talking about, like jackpot justice and lawsuit lottery.
Yes.
And that now has been taken away by the veto pen, unfortunately.
Yeah, this was one that if I'm reading it right, and I'm not a lawyer, but it's very legalese throughout. But if I'm reading it right, this would curb a lot of the fatter lawsuits that come in the wake of an accident.
That's right.
Just the ones that just flush out your entire insurance policy, the $100,000, $250,000, like the ones that are intimidating when you get that letter, to the scare tactic lawsuits.
Right. It would have just put more parameters around what is common sense in terms of, what makes sense in terms of a being made whole versus, that much larger kind of, now I'm really excited because I'm going to go way beyond being made whole. So.
Yeah. I don't know why.
A good solid bill.
You remember the movie Office Space?
Yes.
You remember Smakowski? He gets in that accident. No, he's the guy who has the jump to conclusions, Matt. Remember that?
Yeah, I don't remember it as well as you do,
right.
Brian.
So he gets into an accident. He ends up in a wheelchair, and he's like in this big headgear and neck brace and all that stuff, and he's happy about it, right? That he's the jackpot justice character, and all the rest of the characters are like, what a sad existence. And yet, for some reason, this carries the day over at the state capitol. I don't understand that. The character that everyone else is going to point at and just feel pity for is the one we're aspiring to be for some reason.
Right. And again, it just goes against all the things that we say that we want to be in Louisiana. We want to be looked at as a great place to do business. We want to be open for business. We want to attract all these new industries. We want to continue to do all these things. And you look at all the good things that we're doing, and there are plenty. But when you don't address that legal climate, that civil justice climate, you're really missing the boat.
And when we talk, I would think if everybody looked at their car insurance premium and if everybody's premium dropped by say $100, the cumulative jackpot there is so much greater than any one payout.
Absolutely. And we're looking at the greater good here and just what's common sense. And we talk a lot about insurance, and which is clearly the thing that's most on people's minds, mine as well. But really at the end of the day, what we're talking about is enacting good public policy.
Mm-hmm.
When you have good public policy as a state, you're more attractive to business. You're more attractive to for people wanting to come and move here,
right?
Have raised their families here. We look at neighboring states. Georgia just passed comprehensive legal reform. Texas has had comprehensive legal reform for decades. But again, they're not sitting on their laurels. They're continuing to try to move more progressive reforms.
How quickly you got to get out of here? Can you stick around for the last couple minutes? Okay. Lana Venable with Louisiana Lawsuit Abuse Watch is in with us. We're going to break on air for Your Money Now. We'll check traffic one more time. We'll come back because there's a couple more things I want to touch on as we head into this last day of the session. So we will continue with her next. Real quickly, got to remind you about a couple of podcasts we got out there. Louisiana Business Weekly podcast. This is one that I host, but I am definitely not the star of the show here. Louisiana Business Weekly podcast is your source for the latest in Louisiana's business landscape. It is proudly presented by the folks over at Currency Bank. Check them out online at currency.bank, or you can go see them over there in Town Center. It's a weekly show, minus this week because I was out of town. A weekly show that dives into the trends, stories, and voices shaping the state's economy. Listen and subscribe on your favorite platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and more. You can catch all the episodes at talk1073.com as well. And while we're talking podcasts, if you visit talk1073.com, hit up Moon Graffon's podcast as well. 8:50, here's Your Money Now. Were there? I didn't know if we'd gotten everything that you wanted to cover here. So
thank you. Yeah, I would kind of like to talk about kind of what the thought process is here from the leadership, and from the governor's perspective in terms of, you're sort of looking at where you have you want to have this business friendly climate, but then at the same time you have these kinds of issues.
Did you see Rolf McCollisher's column on that?
A while back?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great piece. I think we retweeted it.
Okay. Yeah. It's Louisiana's open for business, but is it really?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And those are things. I mean, that's a real important question. We can't look at this over here and ignore this over here. They go together. And if we're not addressing this as a whole, other states are, and they're getting it together, and they're not infighting. They understand this is what we have to do. And there's compromise, of course, but this is something that our people are coming back to me from other counterparts in other states that are like, wow, what are y'all doing? What are y'all doing down there?
I'm trying to think of how to pivot the conversation to the economic development end, because that's the real.
Well, and the governor talks about, when he's been on with Moon and maybe with you as well, I can't remember, but, he talks about Louisiana being on that judicial hellholes list, and how now, because we've passed these bills, we're going to roll off that list. Well, I don't think it's that simple, and I don't control that list, but I mean, there's so many other things going on here, and let's not forget about the legacy and the coastal lawsuits. And that goes into all these.
I don't know what's the right call on these. Do we want them to go to settlements?
No. I mean, I think at the end of the day, and look, I think if the settlement is realistic, I mean, I think that's between the parties.
Because the first settlement was like $750 million, and we can't.
Yeah.
That's not sustainable.
Not sustainable,
right?
And again,
but at the same time, though, if they're not settled, then they're in perpetuity. It just.
Well, ultimately,
I don't know where the happy ground is there.
We'd like for them to be dismissed because we don't think that they have any ground.
Well, I'd like Kate Anderson to go 8 innings on Saturday. So.
Well, I mean, we really don't believe that they have grounds to move forward. But, they've gone back and forth from state to federal court. And, here we are now with this first of these, like you said, which is we call those nuclear verdicts, $10 million or more. So the more of those nuclear verdicts that we see as a state, and we've had 3 recently, counting that one, again, that's businesses look at that. It's not a good look for Louisiana. And so again, we can't be so internally focused on these things that we don't look outside the state and see how we're being perceived. And it's not good.
We talk about the judicial, like the tort reform from a premium standpoint, from an insurance standpoint, from a recruitment standpoint, it's equally,
right,
if not more so.
Right, and that's one piece of the puzzle. And then, Brian, insurance is one thing. It's the most glaring example. But I mean, we're paying for all these billboards and all these so and so got me so much and got me this and got me that. We're paying for that in the cost of every single thing, everything we buy, every good, every service, everything. It all trickles down. And the last study that I saw on that had every single Louisiana resident paying more than $1,000 a year in this hidden tort tax that nobody sees. But I mean, you can't have all these windfall verdicts, judgments, and somebody's paying for that, and that somebody is us.
We're going to have all of 4 minutes, so we're going to have to pick and choose which ones we're going to here.
You lead me where you want to go.
All right, I want to start with the economic development end.
Okay.
And then we'll do about a minute and a half on that, and the last 2.5 minutes on legacy lawsuits.
Okay.
Because it's one where I legitimately don't know, like, if you want to, like, dismissals would be great, and I don't know why that can't be proven. Look, it's been in the court this long.
Coastal. Yeah. Coastal.
Yeah. Okay. Coastal lawsuits, yeah.
Yeah. And I'll touch on the legacy lawsuit legislation that I'm not still exactly sure how that has landed. The devil's always in the details, right?
Oh, by the way, as an aside,
it all runs together.
Mm-hmm. If you're good, I'm good, man. Like that's.
It's been watered down. It's been watered down a bit. We're as Moon would hate this phrase, but it's not what we wanted, but it's a step in the right direction. And I still need to figure out exactly what it does and doesn't do after those amendments. But yeah, it's got watered down a bit, unfortunately. Yeah,
and then the bill that makes Tim Temple the scapegoat.
And I almost
not
forgot
that
one.
but that's,
yeah, it's okay. But and there is a chance that could undo a lot of this,
right?
In terms of the insurance impact specifically.
So Tim's coming on tomorrow at 8:15, and that's going to be a part of the conversation. Then is that all this work that has gotten done to show the insurance companies that we are open for business, and they're like that all those guns that we put in the arsenal, and we're going to aim them straight at our foot. 8:56 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Lana Venable nice enough to stick around for a couple more minutes to try and jam 19 more topics into 4 minutes
at least.
It's okay. I want to talk about we talk about the judicial hellholes, and we talk about tort reform from an insurance premium standpoint. Let's spend a quick minute talking about it from an economic development standpoint, because I feel like the legislature and the fourth floor, the governor's office, needs credit on this as well. They've done a lot to give Susan Bourgeois and LED an arsenal full of weapons, but it feels like at the end of the day, we gave Susan Bourgeois an arsenal full of weapons with no bullets. And is that an apt comparison there?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're saying is right on. In terms of when we look at all the things that attract a business to a city or a state, one of those key things is its legal climate. And, imagine if you're a business looking, and again, we're in competition, right? So this is another time where, as in Louisiana, we tend to just kind of look in the mirror a lot. We don't necessarily always look around and see what other states are doing. And when we talk about economic competitiveness, it's not just in comparison with our neighboring states. It's not being competitive with within the country. Competition is global these days.
Right.
And, we have got to make ourselves as attractive as we can. So from a business standpoint, absolutely. This is one of the things they look at. They look at, can their employees afford the cost of living?
Right.
Can they afford insurance? Can we afford to insure our businesses and all of our assets? So, I mean, it is a much bigger picture. And certainly when you look at all these other things and we don't address this to the fullest extent that we should, we're really missing the forest for the trees.
2 minutes ago, just shy of 2 minutes ago, is that enough time for us to even mention coastal lawsuits and what Louisiana Lawsuit Abuse Watch wants to see?
Sure.
Not what we have, but what you want to see.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we believe that these lawsuits are unfounded. They're based on claims of damages that were made decades ago under existing federal law.
Mm-hmm.
So to come back now and try to assume all these retroactive damages, we just don't believe that has a real legal basis.
Right.
Been batted back and forth between federal and state courts for over a decade now. And then we've seen this first bellwether verdict that was certainly what we call a nuclear verdict.
$750 million.
Right. And again, you talk about a message to businesses. Well, not only if you come here and do something that we think is bad, we're going to sue you, on the spot, which, of course, if there's damage, that makes sense.
Right.
But if you're going to look back decades to a legally permitted activity and look at that as a basis for lawsuits, and again, multi-million-dollar lawsuits, that sends a chilling message to investors.
It absolutely does. And that those nuclear verdicts just aren't sustainable overall. It's just when the legislation is the choice between pushing them to settle or keeping them going generationally, I don't know that we haven't hit the right answer yet.
Right. I mean, these are the businesses that are the backbone of our economy.
100%. She is Lana Venable with Louisiana Lawsuit Abuse Watch. Thank you so much for sticking around. Thank you for the time this morning. We have got to get out of here. Buckle up, y'all. The hammer was dropped on SB 111, and Moon Griffon is about to pounce. He's next. All right, Facebook, I got a skedaddle. Yeah, skedaddle. We'll see y'all tomorrow.